souls that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. He's got questions rolling like a big John Deere, digging deep with modders so their voices we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Big Day Dave, and this is Farm Sim Talk, a show where we get to talk to other creators here in the Farm Sim community and get to find out a little bit more about them. Tonight, I am joined here by Doc from FAFO Logging. Words are hard tonight. Doc, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I want to give a bunch of shout outs here because I see a bunch of you already in the chat. We got Ian Goes Civ, Jody Beard. We got Dust Bunny. Thank you so much, Dust Bunny, for showing. We got Lisa, Miss Hillbilly. Let's see. We got DTX. Let's see. Who else we got in here? We got The Real Unknown Device. We got Why Not Gaming, Boganery. Holy smokes. We got a bunch of y'all. Dwayne. Jay Meister, thank you all so much for coming out here tonight. Dead Calm, hope y'all are having a fantastic day so far. So wow, that is going to be that kind of night, isn't it? Doc, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do here in the community?
Well, I go by the name Doc. I play logging on fire. I do logging on Farm Sim. I am a real life logger. I have many years experience and knowledge of logging, and I just kind of bring my knowledge to the game and try to share little tips and tricks. Meanwhile, I'm just showing everybody that logging ain't as hard as it looks. I got a really good little community going. We all sit in there and laugh and joke, and I just log my little life away and just have fun.
Excellent, excellent. And can you let us know where we can find you?
Well, you can find me on my YouTube at FAFO Logging, or my Discord, or yeah, that's about the only two places right now. I will be getting the TikTok started back up soon, but for right now, just them two.
Excellent, excellent. Do you want to give any shout outs before we go?
Yeah, let me give a couple shout outs. I guess the first one would go to all the members of my channel. They really help support the streams and keep things afloat over there on that end. And another one would be to Bo Gannery. He's been really, really cool guy I met here on farms or on YouTube. Real good lad. Think of him just like a brother. Another one I think of just like a brother would be Unknown Device. Another real cool guy. Um, yeah, in my little group, you got Billy Goat Gaming, you got Grub 307. Uh, them guys for sure should all get shout outs. And everybody else that just comes and hangs out with me while I log, yeah, for sure. And you, especially for having me on tonight. I shout you out.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to go into our first segment here called Digging Up Dirt. It's where we get to know you for more outside of your farm sim profile here. So, first question I got for you is, well, we actually know this one. You do have a job outside of content creation, doing the actual logging. So, in regards to your like everyday job, how well does it translate into the gameplay aspect of things?
Uh, very well. It now, granted, everything like you can't like what I do in real life, I can 95% put into the game, but because of the restrictions and limitations of the game, I can't do all my little tips and tricks. And but as far as like sitting down, looking at a map, planning the block out, how I want to set it up, where's the limmer gonna sit, where's the skidder gonna yard into, which way is the buncher going to set up a main trail? How am I going to set up the fingers? Am I going to do an overstory removal, a clear cut? All that stuff. Which way's the water going to run? Am I going to put culverts in? Like well, now I have this terra farming. I can bring a lot more into the game, and like what I'm doing right now on this street on this series I'm doing, called Hell of the Hillside. Um, we're cutting in woods roads. We're finding a piece of wood that's inaccessible, and we're cutting roads right into it, just like I would in real life. And but yeah, I'd say it's about 95% uh the same.
And what would you say would be like the biggest difference? Like something that is almost unforgivable that is
Tree
not
physics.
how so?
So um trees are very pliable. So for example, if I pick up a tree with the head of a buncher, right? And I tilt the top of that tree into the ground, it's not going to lift my machine up off the ground. It's going to start snapping, cracking, and the tree's going to bend and give. It's not going to flip me over. It's not going to do all the other nonsense that it does in Farm Sim. There's lots of little things like that. It's like we were talking about before we went live here. The tracks not being on their own separate motors and not being able to X out and have one go forward, one go reverse, vice versa. Them are my pet peeves with the game.
Gotcha. And what kind of hobbies do you have besides Farming Simulator? Do you like to go hiking, fishing, sports?
Uh, Hunting. I do a lot of hunting. Uh, do a lot of four wheeling, mudding, trapping. We run. I haven't done it for a few years, but I really do like running the dogs on raccoons. We go out in the cornfields and let the dogs loose, and they'll tree some raccoons. Uh, Mechanic work. I love doing like my fun mechanic work. I don't like getting out when it's 40 below and changing a hydraulic hose for work. That's nobody wants to do that, but
Nah.
um let's but no, like in a nice heated garage in the middle of winter, like right now I'm putting a long block Cummins in a Jeep project, it's
Okay,
that's
okay.
that's the kind that's the that's what I'm into. It's just a real outdoors type of guy.
So you mentioned hunting. What all do you try to go after?
We got moose, deer, partridge. Uh, do a little black bear hunting. I mainly just stick to the deer and the moose, though. It's more rewarding to me.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Moose hunting, that's interesting. I haven't been moose hunting. That sounds like that'd be a ton of fun.
It is. It's a lot of setup too. Yeah, me working in the woods, I see where they are. I see where they're running all the time, right? So if I can get a lottery, like up here we do a lottery. The state does a lottery, and if you're by chance get drawn for said lottery and you get your zone, like when I get my zone, it's a guaranteed win for me because you got to stop and think. Oh, I'm in the woods all the time. Not so much recently, but I'm like I know through kind of communication with the boys and stuff where the moose are traveling. So it ain't like I'm coming up from New York and just gonna set a camper down in a gravel pit and wonder, well, where are they?
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much know where they are.
I gotcha, I gotcha. And you mentioned the Cummins in the Jeep project there. What kind of Jeep is it?
So it's 86 CJ, and we have stripped it. It's not even a Jeep anymore. It's sitting on a 93 three-quarter ton Chevy frame,
Ooh.
and uh, yeah, it's totally custom at this point. It wasn't ever supposed to go that far.
One of those you got to a certain point, it's like, we already got this far. Why not just
Yeah.
put a little more into it?
It was supposed to stay the stock 286 motor and all this stuff. It was just supposed to be a nice little tool around, quiet Jeep, not something that blows black smoke when you start it up and sits 4 feet off the ground.
But you know what? What fun would have been to have the stock motor and all that stuff.
Not much. I know myself quite well. I know where that would have went.
So it sounds like you would have eventually gotten to this point regardless. So,
About the first time I got stuck in a rut or something, yeah, that probably it would have went right home and met the hot knife, which well, I call a torch a hot knife.
hmm
So.
so is this something you've done, before besides the current project you have, or?
Oh, I I've tinkered and modified stuff all my life. Like I remember being 12, 13 years old and my old man bringing me home it was a Yamaha Kodiak four-wheeler. And
Okay.
I was upset that it was all-time four-wheel drive. So dad was at work one day and I crawled under it with the hot knife and cut the four-wheel drive shaft right out of it because I wanted to rip donuts. He was not happy when he got home. I was just I wanted to do donuts that day, and I didn't want to mess around with the bolts taking it out. So I said, well, when I'm ready for 4-wheel drive again, we'll weld it back together. I mean, I remember the old man put a welder in my hand at like 11 or 12 years old, and he was having me practice little C's, all the time. He'd throw two plates of stock up on the bench there, and he said, weld them. And so I started into mechanics real young in my life.
So, how quickly did he trust you with the hot knife after that one?
We'll just say I had a hot rear end when he got home.
Yeah, yeah, I could only imagine.
But
But hopefully it was fun
uh,
while it lasted.
it was. I burned a whole tank of gas that day, and it needed a set of back tires.
Oh, yep, that would do it. Would do it. Ooh. So, do you like to read, watch movies?
Um, Reading, I like to read a little bit. It's like when I got downtime in the woods. So, there's this author from Maine. He's an ex-game warden. Goes by the name of Randall Probert, and he's got probably a dozen books out there. And man, if I could sit down and have a beer with that dude and just hear his stories, that would be great. But yeah, that's a little bit of reading I do. As far as movies, YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, but I'm not really into movies. I haven't watched movies for a long time.
Gotcha. And what kind of YouTube do you watch?
Oh, we got like Diesel Creek, Larson Farms, Vice Grip Garage. just everyday manly YouTube, you know.
I gotcha. And what's some of the oddest or weirdest books or movies that you've seen up until this point?
Ooh. Um, I read a documentary. It wasn't really a book, but it was more of a documentary that Next Logger had written, and man, he was really putting the sugar on that one. He was making it sound like we're all a bunch of millionaires and we got it such an easy life, and that right there kind of blew my mind. That one is like, yeah, I read like 3 pages of it. I'm like, get real. But I can't remember the name of it, but it kind of blew up. Everybody was like really about that documentary. They're like, "Oh, you guys got it so easy." Baloney.
Oh man.
Come on up. Put you in the seat for a day. You tell us how easy we got it when you're going home limping, holding onto your rib cage because you get smacked off the side of the cab at 10 miles an hour in a skidder.
Ooh, that doesn't sound like fun. So that's something that happened through personal experience, or?
Oh, it's almost like climbing in a WWE ring, sitting in the seat of one of them things. That's
Oh,
a young man's job. You get beat because your main objective is to keep the deck full of wood, right? So it speeds your friend. And, especially in the winter when the snow's starting to melt, the fella buncher ain't going to put his head into the snow because he don't know what's below it. If it could be a big rock, he could ruin his teeth. So as the snow is melting, you're getting 2, 3 foot stumps, and the skidder finds them pretty quick when he's trying to turn around and back into his twitch. And uh, it's not a rare occurrence when a skidder gets rolled over. We'll put it that way.
ooh, that doesn't sound like fun. So, how would you correct something like that? I mean, how would you get it rolled back over? I mean, they're not small
So
machines.
no, so it's usually we just wrap a chain around the arch and one to the blade. We'll say it's laid over, sitting in the seat. We'll say it's laid over on its left side. We'll take the buncher, another skidder, and just pull up to we'll kind of like make a T shape with the good skidder that's still standing, or buncher. I'd rather use the buncher because then I can put down force with it at the same time while I'm pulling it over. But um, just kind of set it back on its wheels. Most of the time, you have to take a chainsaw and cut the twitch out of the grapple. But um, you always try to when the machine goes over, you always want to try to hit that key. The very first thing you want to do is grab that key and shut it off because you don't want that motor running upside down for any period of time because you could wet wash your cylinders and ruin the motor. You literally could. You get the key off in time, you can roll that thing over, set it back on its feet, and within 20 minutes to an hour, start it back up and go back to work if you get it shut off in time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one of the worst things to do to an engine is flip it over and let it run.
Yeah.
Oof, I could not imagine. So, what kind of music are you into?
Oh, I've got such a variety. My Spotify playlist is wild. So it's country rap, a lot of 90s rap. I'll get you. I find that when I'm in the limmer, I find I'm into my old country phase, like Conway Twitty and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to music.
Something is going on. What is going on with YouTube here lately? Oh, did it just come back? Okay.
I'm not sure what just happened to me.
Hmm. Yeah, not quite sure what happened there, but yeah, I'm not showing any drop frames or anything like that. So YouTube is just acting awry here lately. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue there. I do apologize, everyone. But yeah, that does appear to be a YouTube thing, not a me thing. Anyways, so we were talking there about your music. So, what about the particular machines lends to like a specific playlist? Like,
So when I'm in the fella buncher, I I like speed. I'm fast. I'm quick. I'm surgical with it. It's. But when I'm in the limmer, I got to go slow because there's limbs. I got to make sure it meets all the mill specs. And it if I'm in the skidder, I kind of like a mild, like we'll say like an Alan Jackson or Brad Pitt or not Brad Pitt, but Brad Paisley kind of feel. It's just it all depends on the speed of the machine, pretty much.
Okay,
I don't know. It
so
just that kind of sets my mood.
no, and that makes sense. I wasn't considering the fact that there's going to be certain jobs that are going to have different paces to them. And no, that makes sense that you're going to sit there and want a more kind of intense or more faster pace, type of music in one machine, but you're not going to want that same kind of music in a slower machine because then it's going to potentially could influence you to go out of beat or, go quicker than you
Hmm.
want to and make mistakes.
Like I got a short on my YouTube of real life lemming, and I honestly think I was listening to Conway Twitty when I made that. It was just, but I was moving at a decent pace. I was in softwood, so I didn't have to worry about the big hardwood limbs, and breaking a pin on my grab arms on a limber. On the edge of the grab arms, there's knives welded on, and uh, you can snap chunks right out of them nice if you're trying to ram that into a big hemlock branch, or a big maple or rock maple branch, especially when it's 40 below out, right? Because metal is brittle. The colder the
Mm-hmm.
weather, it's just brittle. I mean, it gets so cold up here some nights that we just leave the equipment running overnight. We'll turn the heater on low and just let it idle. We'll fill it up before we leave. Come home, it will sit there idle all night long because no one wants to battle gelled fuel filters or gelled fuel lines, or just motor oil. It's thick as molasses and negative 40 below. You lose half your day just trying to get the machine running when you can spend $100 to let it run all night.
Wow, I didn't even think about something like that, but no, that makes total sense. Yeah, because up in the north there, the diesel, like you said, it'll gel, it'll get all gnarly, it won't flow right. Wow, I didn't never would have thought about that. Hmm.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of scares me about leaving them running at night is like we like to leave the heaters on low, um, mainly for circulation throughout the heater core of the antifreeze and stuff. But the it always in the back of my mind that the blower motor is going to catch fire or something. But it's when you're working 14, 15-hour days. You're traveling home. You're getting 3, 4, or 5 hours sleep at most, and then turning around and booking her right back to the woods. The machine's going to sit there for, we'll say, what, 8 hours. So,
So, is there ever a worry that somebody like not of the crew or anything like that could come around and mess with your machines or something?
well, it happens. It happens a lot. But we just recently went through. Not me personally, but there was just an incident in Maine not that long ago where a bunch of, I call them tree huggers, came up with cans of gasoline, dumped them all over the logging equipment, lit it afire, and left. There's always someone trying to stop you from shining, I guess is the way to put it. So, um, they see you got a few dollars in your pocket and they want to stop that. But
So,
no, it's a wild situation. Like I've had diesel fuel stolen from me. I've had people climb in my machines and steal the friggin' AM FM radio out of it just for fun.
wow.
So,
So let me get this straight. So I presume that the people who are doing the lighting of fire were there, like you mentioned, tree huggers. So they're more concerned about the environment and things like that. So
hmm
my presumption is that they're going to go and fight for the environment by pouring a bunch of gasoline onto machines that's going to eventually run onto the ground and leach into the soil. They're going to set things on fire, which are going to sit there and burn up the machines, going to put more carbon into the air. They're going to sit there and potentially even spread the fire going across the entire forest, because I don't know if they know this or not, but wood burns. And all this kind of stuff like that. Does that make any sense to anybody? Like, am I the weird one?
no, you're not, because what they're not thinking about is take a skidder, for example. It's got 400 pounds of rubber sitting on each tire, 4 tires on that machine. So, all that stuff that's burning and melting right into the ground. All your aluminum hydraulic pumps and all that stuff at a certain temperature, them melt, them drizzle right into the ground. All your hydraulic oil from the hoses that burn and explode. They want to preach about keeping the environment, safe and real and all this, but they don't realize that, just one match and they're contaminating more than we do in 10 years.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, not only that, but and I know most. I'm not going to say all, but most states that I'm familiar with have a a cut and plant kind of policy. I don't know if your state does the same thing, but like that. But once a logging crew comes in, they're then having to plant as many trees as they cut, kind of thing. It's like the offsets, I think they're called.
So, I know what you're talking about. We don't do it like that. What we do is, because we are a tree length operation, all the brush that comes off the trees gets the skidder brings back into the woods, he literally builds a road anywhere he drives with it, right? So anywhere the wood was cut, there's brush put back there. And the skidders have chains on them, and they'll sit there and tear that brush up. And what happens is, as that brush breaks down over time, it reseeds the ground. And in 20 years, you come back and there's already a 10, 15-foot tree there.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't even know that. That's kind of cool though. So with something along those lines, um, I mean, it's obviously not going to be like a one for one kind of thing. And are you saying that when you're laying down those branches, it's just the kind of roadway that you're creating, or?
So are the landowners, so we have a policy with any landowner. So if we start rutting the ground up, anything deeper than 2 feet deep and 10 feet long, we have to stop all wood production until that rut is fixed by stuffing it full of wood, material, whatever, just fill that hole, because we don't want ground erosion, and especially if we're next to brooks and deadwaters. So we can't have dirty mud running into to a river, or a spring where there's fish who breathe the water. Fish can't live off muddy water.
Absolutely.
So it goes way deeper than a lot of people think it does. So not only are we, as a logging company, not only are we, thinning out the forest to prevent forest fires and make a consumer's product of 2x4s, 2x6s, all that stuff. We're helping Mother Nature survive, because Mother Nature is its own worst enemy when it comes to trees, because it's if you walk in the woods, you're surrounded by all these tall trees, but you look on the ground, there's all these little ones that will die out because the canopy of the tall ones are not letting the sunlight in. So by you taking out the big ones and actually getting use out of it, you're helping Mother Nature grow the little ones up, and it's a sustainable forest that way. It's like a revolving cycle the whole time.
Gotcha, gotcha. So what would you do if content creation was no longer an option? Let's say your device there just completely blew up tomorrow. What would you do in its replacement?
OnlyFans, no. Um, no, I don't know. Uh, I probably just keep on living my life. I mean, I probably would just go out and buy another one, but I know that wasn't the question. But um, I just keep on keeping on. I do this for entertainment, for fun, and to hang out with friends. I've met a lot of cool people on YouTube, and I'd still stay in contact and all that stuff for sure. Because I still have a phone. But it's we'd make it work. We'd do something there. We'd get back together somehow.
Gotcha. And has it been your dream to be a content creator, or do you feel like you just fell into it?
So I kind of just fell into it, right? Like, I started streaming back in January. Like you and me were talking off stream there. I think my first stream was January 13th, if I remember right. And then, a lot of credit goes to OTG, Oregon Tree Gaming there. He showed me how to stream. He showed me how to set up my streams, thumbnails, set up OBS, all that stuff. And I kind of blew up there a couple months later. there was a situation there with another streamer that I won't go into, but there, but just shorts and everybody just coming across somebody that actually knows what to do with the logs and tree and fire logging and farm sim. Like I was posting on TikTok for a while. I was, I was really hitting it hard when I first started, but I get 20, 30 subs a month out of that, and I'm happy with that now. I'm not trying to go big. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to sell my business tomorrow and be a full-time content creator. I do this for fun and to spread the knowledge of logging and just tips and tricks to make the game more fun for people. Because I do this stuff with my eyes closed, right? Like I don't, it's second nature to me. So if I can help other people get into it, like I've unknown device. He got a computer, he got joysticks, and I've worked with him. You know, uh, Grub 307. He's another logger. He runs Forder. He comes in. I've showed him tips and tricks. He showed me tips and tricks. People log different areas of the world, and there's different tips and tricks that can be shown and told. There's been I mean, and not even just logging, right? Like there's been many of the boys that I've helped start streaming. It's like I felt like I had to pass it forward. Showed me how to start streaming. I showed Billy Goat. I showed Grub. I've helped other small time. I'm all the time throwing out people's links and stuff, trying to get the support and show the love to people. And it's kind of, I don't know. It's just kind of who I am. It's like I'd rather I'd rather them get the attention than I get the attention.
For sure, for sure. So I've stopped in on several of your streams there, and I can tell you from what I've witnessed is some sort of sorcery, like absolute wizardry with your setup there, because is one of those where I sit here and I do all my gaming with one of these, a joystick, I'm sorry, a controller, like a PlayStation 5 controller,
Hmm.
and it's one of those that there's obviously only so much kind of precision that you're going to be able to have with one of those things. I imagine that you've got some kind of a setup that's a little bit more precise based on the kind of sorcery that I've seen on my screen here. You care to describe what kind of setup you got?
Yeah, I've got two Farm Stick Thrustmaster joysticks,
Two of them.
and that's it. That's all I've got different than anyone else. You can do the same thing I'm doing with two sticks. Now, I've watched many people think they can get away with one stick, and you can't do it. You just cannot do it. I'll fight you. I'll die on this hill. There is too many controls of what to do, what that machine requires you to do for one stick. You got to have two. That's the key thing. You got to have two sticks.
So I'm trying to imagine in my brain exactly how the two joysticks would interact with the game itself. Do you care to kind of just briefly walk us through?
All right, sure. So right here, like right now, I've got my joysticks in my hand. My left one. When I pull back on that, that lifts my main boom up. Now that's the section of boom that's closest to the cab, the big thick one. When I pull back, it lifts back. When I push forward, all right, sorry. When I pull back on the stick, it picks the boom up. When I push forward on the stick, it puts the boom down. Now on the left stick again, when I push it to the left, my cab swings to the left. When I push it to the right, my cab swings to the right. Now there's buttons all across this, and I won't bore you with what all the little buttons do, but I've got like on my left one, uh, I've got my head rotate on a set of buttons. I've got my secondary grab arms on a set of buttons, and I've got my saw blade up and down on a set of buttons. And then there's on the top of these sticks, there's two little orange rocker switches. Now, how I get away from not using pedals is I use one of them rocker switches on my left for steering. Because, like I said earlier, Farm Sim doesn't know how to actually represent tracked machines and have two independent motors. So it's just like driving a vehicle. So if you push left, you're going to go left, whatever. So I just use my thumb for my steering on my left stick. Now on my right stick, when I pull straight back, uh, it's my stick boom that lifts it up. So that's a small section of boom. When I push forward, it lowers it. And then when I go left to right on that stick, it's my head tilt. So most heads in forestry machines, they will rotate and they will tilt. So my head tilt is always on my right stick. And then like I said on this one, I've got my primary grab arms, my this set of buttons ain't actually used for much. Oh, that's my so on the high cab machines that have self-leveling, that's my up and down. And this other one is for feed rollers. This other set of buttons is for my feed to feed my log in and out through my processor head. And then like again, it's got the two rocker switches. Now one of these I use for forward and reverse, and the other one I use for the skidder blade. But and
So,
then of course they got buttons all around the bottom of the bases, which I've set up for lights, horns, terra farming stuff, just stuff. But I've kept these controls other than, the button layouts are different, but I've kept the main four controls on each stick as they are in real life.
okay. So, do you only do like forestry kind of content, or do you play Farming Simulator for farming as well?
Watching me farm is not a good time. So yes, I do mostly only like I've tried farming and it's just like watching paint dry to me. It's so boring. Like you guys got so much stuff going on. You guys got all your AI workers and you got so much help. It's like why now this is my opinion, don't take me wrong. Uh it's like why even play the game when you got all this AI help and you got all everything it does this stuff for you and you just sit here and you're just like hey hi guys me I it's like why I struggle with chat is because I constantly have to stay focused on one screen while my other screen's got my chat on it. Like I don't have no automatic GPS or precision fireman or cross play or any of that. It's literally me and the machines, and that's it.
I gotcha, gotcha. And what kind of family dynamic do you have?
Um, just me and the old lady, just living life to the fullest. Um, that's about it. Like we never had kids. We never. My mother died when I was a young boy, so it was just me and my old man. Dad passed away 4 or 5 years ago, and so yeah, I mean, I've always been the black sheep of the family. It's. I think it's always been more of a jealousy thing than a hatred thing. It's just when they were out partying, I put my nose to the grindstone and went to work and did something with my life, and they all. I hate to say this, but they're all a bunch of useless bums.
So, how do you come up with that balance between the home life, the work life, and the creator life?
Uh, well, like I said, as of recently, I'm not in the woods as much as I'd like to be. So I've been see there. My business grew to a point where I had to make a decision where um I need to be in contact, and being in the woods in my area, there's no phone service. So I need to stay in contact with the mills for any companies I work with for billing and receiving, landowners, all this stuff. So I made the decision to stay home a lot more. Like I'll fill in when the boys have doctor's appointments or sick or whatever. I'll go to the woods and I'll run that equipment that day. But no, like I'm home. I'm home more than I'm in the woods nowadays, and yeah, it bothers me deeply because that's not who I am. But it gives me more time in the garage too, to work on projects and stuff. But it's like I could be midstream and get a phone call, "Hey, I'm broke down. I need parts." Like, sorry guys, I gotta go. Reach over end stream, and I'm grabbing parts and I'm going to the woods. Uh, but it's she works a full time job. So we see each other a lot through the day, and me being home a lot, I get a lot of free time, So that's kind of why I started streaming, to be honest with you, is I needed something because I can get most of my work done, regardless of random phone calls throughout the day. I can get most of my daily work done in like 2 hours. Then I'm sitting there for like 12 hours a day, just nothing to do, like I could go out to the garage and fire it around, or I can, sit here on the computer and just do a few things, so summertime and spring and summer are my busiest times a month because It's hot. Machines are overheating. They need the radiators washed out. I'm all the time back and forth, home in the woods, home in the woods. That's why I kind of died off the summer because I told everybody, spring, summer it starts coming around. You guys won't see much of me. But wintertime is when I have lots of free time because everything's running cool as a whistle and the branches just pop off trees. Not there ain't many breakdowns. Um, I mean, hell, in the wintertime, I even sometimes take on snow plowing jobs, just give me something to do to get out of the house.
I gotcha.
But
And so being out in the woods as often as you are, especially running all that kind of big heavy equipment, uh, you've got to have some stories. Being out in the woods of some kind of craziness that's happened to you out there. You care to share anything with us?
well, let me think of what I could share. I need to remind myself this is your channel and I got to be family friendly. There's lots of things that happen out there. Um, let's see. I think the wildest experience I ever had was that time I got in the wood and this is the whole reason I started carrying a 45 pistol with me in my machine. I was out in the woods and I'd stepped out to stretch my legs and in the very so what I do with the buncher is I walk down in through the woods. I don't cut my way down through the woods. I mean, I'll cut little trees out of the way to, make my path. But the very first bunch I always cut my way out so that I'm not blocking myself in, right? So that I'm always walking away from the twitches. And but the very first twitch I ever cut, I always get out with a can of spray paint. And the theme has always been like when I was subcontracting way back when, um, we always had to write a number three because we were the third crew for that company when I was subcontracting. This is before I went to my own thing. So we just kind of kept that thing. So I always get out first bunch, write a three on it. So the skidder man knows that that's the last twitch on that trail. You don't have to come back in that trail and waste the fuel of the time. Uh, so I got out and I was painted and I was walking around and I said, well, I'll take a minute and use the bathroom. And I was sitting there doing my thing. And next thing I know, I look over my shoulder and there's about a 600-pound bull moose sitting there just looking right at me in the eyes. Had walked up by my machine and yeah, that was quite a scare. Let's just say I finished the bathroom real quick and walked around the other side of the machine and got in awful fast.
Wow. That would be absolutely terrifying.
Yep. That was dead of winter, and you see what has happened was I was knocking all the boughs and limbs off the trees when I cut my way in. And the moose was hungry. We're talking 4 feet of snow on the ground, no vegetation for it to eat. It saw its opportunity, so it was coming up to eat on the twitch.
Oh,
And
wow.
it just, yeah.
Whew. Well, thankfully he was hungry and not choosing anger that morning. Holy smokes.
I mean, I was behind the machine and I could have ducked under the tracks. I mean, it would have been a tight fit, but because I was on, the snow and stuff, but I could have kept myself safe. But yeah, next time Bullwinkle wants to come up and do that to me, he's getting a 45 round right between the eyes. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah, I can't say as I blame you. I mean, th- from what I understand, moose are extremely territorial, so it's one of those like it could have done who knows what at that point.
You, you want to
Um,
hear a funny story?
always.
I got a buddy whose father actually uh, found a calf moose in the woods, just a baby moose, and he brought it home, and the game wardens let him keep it, and he trained that thing. And there's actually, if I can find the pictures, I'll post them in your Discord for you. But he actually put a harness like for like a horse. So he custom leather worked this harness, and he was yarding wood with the moose. He went down in the woods with the chainsaw, cut trees, and was pulling it out with the moose once it grew up.
That is awesome.
He domesticated that moose, and that moose like loves it. He take all the pats and whatever he can get. Sugar cubes.
That's wild. And what's even wilder is the game warden let him keep it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different it's a different. How do I say this? Uh, Keeping politics aside, even though it's a blue state, it's Maine is a different different animal compared to all the other states. Like you, I'll be honest with you, I ain't took the keys out of nothing. Like my own driveway, nothing gets locked. My doors are never locked. I ain't got to worry about a damn thing. You know, it's the little idiots that like you'll get more stuff messed with in the woods than you will at your own house.
I mean, honestly,
It's you
though,
don't hear.
that doesn't surprise me because you figure out in the woods, there's likely going to be times at which you can fairly safely assume that things are going to be left alone, like completely on their own. But at somebody's house, you never know if or when somebody's there. So it's one of those that very oftentimes you never know what house is going to have, like you said, the 45 kind of thing,
Mhm.
hidden behind the doorway. So there was a statistic I was reading a while ago is that the United States has one of the lowest levels of they refer to as hot burglaries, meaning that people like barge into the home armed and ready to basically take all your stuff, and the reason being is because they don't know which home is going to fight back.
Mm.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
no, like I said, it's a totally different animal up here. So it's not like it is down in Texas or Florida or California, like Billy Goat, that guy's had more, like since I've known him, he's had more guns pointed at him than I would ever thought. Like he was driving down the road the other day, and some guy pulled up beside him and pulled a gun on him just because he cut him off. Like I don't know, didn't he? I don't know if he cut him off or what, but he literally had a gun pulled on him because he was driving down the road. What the hell?
wow, that's nuts. So earlier we were talking about your little project car there, and if you had unlimited funds to put towards it, what would be your dream car to have?
Hmm, that's a good question. There's many. I just need to figure out which one I want more. Uh, Honestly, now I back in high school, I had a 93. Now this is so out of the ordinary for me, but it's been in the back of my mind recently about rebuilding this truck. I had a 92 or 93, I can't remember now, but it was literally just a two-wheel drive 1500 extended cab 6-foot bed Chevrolet. But I had ripped the motor out of it, put a 383 stroker in it with a 5-speed.
Ooh.
And I did all the work to it. I did all new body panels, fresh midnight blue metallic paint. I even put a sunroof in it.
Ooh,
And
okay.
that truck right there has always held a special place in my heart. And I really, I was young and dumb, and I sent it to the junkyard because I blew the motor up in it one night. I was pretty hot and wild on some Crown Royal and decided that 6,000 RPMs wasn't the rev limiter for that truck. Uh, and I threw a rod out the side of the block and just
Oh,
young and dumb sent her to the junkyard. I could have put 4 grand into it, put a new motor in it, whatever. But that truck has been on my mind a lot lately. I think I'd probably rebuild that truck.
gotcha, gotcha. So it's so you'd prefer to actually get your hands on something and actually put in the sweat equity to get something that you want out of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I don't like going off other people's builds. I rather build it myself and know what's done to it, what the faults could be, what when when I'm working on my stuff, I'm very meticulous. Like I make sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. Like um I couldn't find myself getting on like say Marketplace and picking up this 93 Chevy and coming home, slapping some paint on it, throwing a motor in it and calling it good. First thing that would happen is the body, everything it'd get stripped right down to a bare frame, get sandblasted, and then built back from that.
Okay. So, do you like to travel?
Uh, it depends. I'll be honest with you, I've left Maine maybe 4 times in my life. And if I never left again, I think I'd be okay with that.
I can certainly understand that. I mean, I tend to be more of a, kind of stay in my own, little locale kind of thing. So I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that one. So what would you say inspires or motivates you in life?
Well, making sure my wife has a very good life, that's one of my big things, I'm nothing without her. So, she's my rock and stone. So, uh, you got to stop and think at the end of the day, I got workers, I got family, they got families, they've got mouths to feed. So keeping them with a paycheck, that's another thing that keeps me going. Uh, just being someone that my father could look down on and say, that's my boy. That's what motivates me.
That sounds like good motivation to me. So with the line of work that you do, is there how do I want to ask this? Do you do like mostly like private land ownerships and trying to clear out like for private owners, or are you like working like hand in hand with the state kind of thing?
So 95% of the time, I'm working with large private landowners, who have their own set of foresters who I work with and I have to sign a contract every year that I will cut X amount of cords of wood for them. Uh, and I've grown a great relationship with them. Now, stateside, I've been slowly getting my foot in the door into the Baxter State Park, and I'm always going to stay on private ground, but there's opportunity for me to invest in another crew, get more equipment, and send a crew down to the park, if that makes sense. That's double dipping, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. But that's kind of my goal. Is I don't know. I mean, I was thinking a while back ago about selling the whole thing because I was upset and pissed off of some stuff that was going on with landowners. But I was gonna go. I don't know. I've always had a passion for off-road recovery, so I was gonna sell everything and get an off-road record and get into that. But I don't think. I think if I wasn't logging, that's what I would be doing though, is off-road recovery.
Okay. So like when you say off-road recovery, you're saying like somebody went out in the woods and got their truck stuck or something like that and you're going back there to go get it, or
That, or logging equipments that got bogged down in a swamp. We'll say, like, I've got pictures of many machines. Spring break, snow's melting, and they're doing a cedar block in a swamp, and they walk out on a piece of ground that ain't as frozen as they thought it was. And next thing you know, there's just a boom sticking up out of the ground. There's no machine, there's no cab, there's no nothing.
oh no. Yeah, about the worst situation that I had ever gotten, well, technically not myself into, but the group that I was with, way back, I think I was like 16, 17, went hunting up in the Peninsula of Michigan. Ugh, words. And friend of the family ended up taking his old Dodge Ram, and they went out, I want to say they went out like right as it was like just as it was starting to get daylight in the morning to go hunt for the day. And my father and we'd gone out, we would set up our little hunting spot, was out for most of the morning and into the afternoon. We decided, okay, we're just going to come back in and call it a day kind of thing, because it's just really really long, and we were just kind of tired at that point. So we both come in and we're just sitting around. We're kind of cleaning up around the campsite and all that stuff. And it's getting later and later and later, and still nobody's showing up. Like normally they come back by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the absolute latest kind of thing. But it's getting to be like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and now it's starting to get dark. And it's like,
Mhm.
what is going on here? Why is everyone gone? And we're not hearing any shots or anything like that. So it's like, this is really weird. and it's not like we can just go walking out in the woods. We're out in the middle of nowhere in Michigan, trying to figure out, what's going on. Well, about 7:30 ish rolls around, and all of a sudden we start hearing voices outside. And we had one of those like old army tents, like one of the like green thick tarp tents that's got the big
Yep.
campfire stove inside. So middle of winter, it doesn't matter. It's going to be nice, toasty, warm in there for us. Well, we're hearing voices outside, and we go stepping outside, and all three of them come wandering up the driveway with no truck. And we're like, what is going on? Where have you guys been? And it's like, well, we went to turn around in the truck, and we apparently found the one spot where it wasn't frozen all the way, and ended up sinking down into the ground. Like, okay, well, we'll go check it out in the morning. We'll hop in our truck and we'll go drive down and take a look. We go down there, and by the time we'd gotten there, the truck had sank. And this truck was built up on a lift. I think it was like a probably every bit of a 4-inch lift. It sank down all the way to the windows, like in the ground. Like, I don't know what it is they got into, but it just boosh, just sank right in there. And to be able to recover it, my father, on a whim, decided he was going to bring a little ratchet come along with us. And we somehow got it around the rear axle, and we just started, tying it off to a tree that was nearby, and we just ratcheted that thing just slowly but surely up out of this little hole that they found. But I mean, there was going to be like no way that we were going to be able to tell anybody because we were on state land at that point, so we weren't even supposed to be with our vehicles back
Right.
there. So yeah, it was it was a rescue mission we had to figure out.
Yep. No, I've been in many situations like that. I'll tell you one time, it was middle. This is a little different than yours, but it's worth telling. Back when I was just getting into my own business here, it was a Saturday, and I felt the need that I needed to work that Saturday, and it was snowing. I mean, snowing like hard. It's probably one of the hardest ones I can physically like remember. I can't remember any other snowstorm that was like that one. And well, anyway, I woke up 2:30 that morning, and I jumped in the truck and went to the woods. I got in the buncher and let her warm up. It just started snowing just as I got out of the buncher. And I said, "Well, I'll work till noon and then I'll get out of here, because it was supposed to snow like 18 to 24 inches that day." And well, 20 minutes went by, machine warmed up, and I struck off down in the woods, and I was jamming out, just doing my thing, cutting my trees, and down in the woods, it ain't like it is out in the open. You can't tell how hard it's actually snowing, and I misjudged it. I I didn't think it was snowing that hard, so I'll just work a full day, no big deal. No sense of me walking all the way back out. I was like 3,200 feet down in the woods, and in a buncher, that's quite a ways, down over rocky terrain and stuff. So it took me 20 minutes just to walk that up out of there. And so I decided I was going to work till 4 o'clock. So, well, when it came 4 o'clock, and I got far enough where I could see the pickup, the snow had snowed so hard that day that all I could see is the bottom of the windshield and the top of the cab and the back body of the pickup.
Oh wow.
And here I am, 42 miles back in the woods up there all by myself. No phone service. So I took the head of the buncher and I used it as a little plow, and I cleaned up all the snow in the road, pushing it side to side. It actually got to the point where I cut a big spruce tree and I laid it down and used it as a big broom to sweep the road, get the snow out of it. And I got in the truck, and of course the truck was stuck right where it sat. So I had to hook a chain to it and pull it up out of there. I got it into where I'd already plowed. And I thought to myself, you're dumb to even try this, because there's no way you're treading snow that far. 40 miles of woods road, no phone service. That's a lot of things can go wrong. Uh, well, anyways, I mustered up the courage and I said, the hell with it, I'm going to try. So I threw the tree in the yard that I'd cut, and I parked the buncher. And, I got in that truck and I made it. I was doing good there for a while. I'd made it about 7 8 miles, and then I came across the road. It opened up into where it had been clear cut on both sides of the road, and the wind had blown across the road and stacked the snow up. We're talking 15 20 foot snowdrift.
Oh
There was no
wow.
way. There was no way I was getting around that. And when I came to a stop, I was done right there. I knew I so I stayed in the woods. Now remind you, this was on a Saturday. Uh, I had about a half a tank of fuel in the pickup, and I uh, I stayed in that truck all Saturday night, all of Sunday, and about 7 o'clock that Monday morning, the grader come through pushing the snow back and found me. How the hell I didn't run out of diesel? I was hungry. I was starving. Like I had ate all my food. I had a little bit of drink left, but that was one of them life or death situations right there. You imagine what if that grader didn't come through or didn't start that day? That would have been a whole other day I was sitting there.
Wow. That's terrifying. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine just being like completely stuck out in the woods. It's freezing cold outside. The only things that you got are inside that truck. And it's not like you're going to be able to wander back to go get the equipment you left behind in order to get it up there. It's probably not even going to, drive as far as you're able to get your truck.
Hmm. No, it's that's the thing. Do you risk getting out in the freezing temperatures? Get frostbit all to hell. We're talking, it's below freezing and wind whistling. I mean, my safest bet was to stay in the truck, and that's what I did. It got to the point where I thought if I ran out of diesel, what I was going to do, and my only option I could come up with was to take the spare tire off the back of the truck and set it in the middle of the road and set it on fire just so I could get some more.
Wow. That's,
But
yeah, that is terrifying. Holy smokes. So let me ask you this. When you get introduced to a new person, what's one thing that they're generally surprised to find out about you?
how young I am and how young I am and be so far into owning my own business. Like they're more surprised about my work ethic, and my drive than anything. I think. I'm 35 years old, and I've got a pretty good. I'm not tooting the horn. I've got a pretty good business under my feet here. Um, I'm self-made. I never had nothing given to me, so I would say that's probably one of their. That's a hard question. It's like I can't read other people's minds, but if I'm just sitting here thinking, just recent interactions and stuff, and what they compliment me the most on, that's probably one of the biggest things.
And what's one fear of your biggest fears that keeps you up at night?
Uh, well, after losing both of my parents at such a young age, I mean, I lost my mother when I was just a boy. I mean, I was knee high to a grasshopper, and my father was my rock all my life. Uh, Now as I got left's my old lady, and if I don't know, I would be a meltdown. There would be a Doc meltdown there, I think. But that's probably the biggest thing in my life that scares me is because I've been through the pain, I've seen the struggle, I've done it all, so I've seen it. I will say I had the childhood that probably no kid my age should have had, you know, because you got to stop and think. Dad was working in the woods all his life. Mom died when I was just a boy, and uh, that put a lot of responsibilities onto my shoulders. So here I am, just this little boy, cooking, cleaning, chores, homework, school, while trying to keep friendships. It's just it's. I've sat down, like, it's a story I keep pretty tight, but I've opened up to a few people and told them it, and they're like, "God damn," they're like, "Wow, you've been through it." But
So you mentioned your father out in the woods too. Did he do similar work that you're doing now, or?
yeah, my dad. So all his life he's been in the woods. He owned his own logging company way, 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 way back when. We're talking old Clark cable skidders and timberjack skidders, and he got to the point where it just wasn't feasible for him to keep going. So he sold everything and went to work for um, an employer. And ever since a young boy, that's all I remember. That's all I remember Dad ever doing. Well, at the time when Mom died, he was actually working two jobs. My old man was the hardest worker I've ever met, and I'm not just saying this because it was my old man, but just from a standalone, versus one person to him, he's probably the hardest worker I ever met. Now this guy, he worked for like sometimes in the wintertime he'd leave at midnight and he wouldn't get home till 7, 8 o'clock that night. Um, because he was the grader man. He plowed all the roads and all that stuff. But at the time of Mom passing, he worked two jobs. Not only was he working in the woods 14 hours a day, 3 days a week he was coming home and going right to the mill from the woods and unloading trucks all night until he had to go to work the next day.
Wow. That's impressive. It's very impressive. So would you say that the work that your father did kind of influenced you to go out and kind of follow in his footsteps?
100%. 100%. I seen what that man went through to give us a life, and it kind of instilled the work ethic, and how do I say this? Just the drive, you know what I mean? Like he definitely gave me a lot of knowledge at a young age, and I put that deep down inside me, and I've kept it there ever since. And it would take it would take it'd take a lot for me to stop doing what I'm doing.
Gotcha. Do you own any pets?
Oh my God! Welcome to the zoo. I got. Oh, she loves her dogs. She 5 retrievers, uh, labs. You got what is there? There's 3 boys. No, sorry, 4 retrievers. We got 3 boys and a girl, and then Dad just before he passed had bought a dog, and I got that too, and that's a husky.
Oh, beautiful dog.
Yep,
Is it as vocal as I've seen other huskies be?
that damn mouthpiece. Yeah, yeah.
There-
It loves to run. Loves to run. Like I've got so many acres of land here, man, and like I don't know. She just you let her outside on a chain. I have to keep her on a chain because she'll just. I don't know how many times I've chased her through the woods. But the closer you get to her, the further away she runs, and you pretty much just have to leave the door open on the house and wait for her to come in and lay down next to you.
it's at that point she thinks it's a game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've had dogs very similar to that. There's a YouTube channel that I follow, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what it is. Uh, but the owner has 3 huskies, and every once in a while, you'll come across their feed, and they'll sit there and just look at one of them, just cross-eyed kind of thing,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it'll start with the chatter, like the little, like the interactions, and then of course the next one will start up. Then it goes from chatter to like full blown howls to all of a sudden all 3 of them just going off in unison. I could only imagine.
So my little game that me and her have started is I'll walk in the house and all the other dogs will greet me at the door or whatever. And I'll instantly point at the husky, and I'll say, "You shut up." And she'll flip right out. She'll jump right down on the ground. She'll start howling, and then she just runs at me and jumps and pretty much makes me catch her so she don't fall. So she's like, "Damn you, you will love me."
I will force my love upon you. I've
Oh,
got a couple of dogs myself, and they're amazing creatures.
oh, yeah, no, I don't know. And that's not to mention she's got what 2 cats too. So it's a zoo. It's a zoo.
Wow. So you said how many? 5 dogs total,
5 dogs, 2 cats.
and they all get along with each other, no issues.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Actually, Gunner or yeah, the Gunner and the cat there the, they're best friends.
That's highly impressive. I'm pretty sure that even though that my 2 dogs are rather up there in age right now, if a cat were to be introduced into this house, it wouldn't be around for long. You mentioned that you enjoy watching YouTube, and a lot of it was kind of the builders content, and stuff like that. Is there any content within the farm sim community that you tend to follow?
Uh, there's been this. Uh, how do I say this? Um, there's this one channel. This one kid I met. He had like 12 subscribers when I first met him, and he's a British dude. His name's Sim Dewey. Uh, he's actually been the one I've been watching, kind of learning about the farming side of things. Like he's a whiz with that course play and auto drive and all that stuff, right? So like I've kind of been talking to him off the side of things here, just trying to figure out if I could make that work anyway for like in my logging operation. Like it'd be awesome if I could say, here's a load of wood, take it to the mill. You know what I mean? But it would save me one aspect, but then that kind of counteracts with the whole little game I've got going on my channel. So what we do on the channel is I'll load a truck and I'll drive it to the mill, and then I sit there at the cell site and I'll say, "Okay, guys, put your guesses in." And it's kind of a little contest because at the end of the year, whoever's got the most wins is going to get a set of Joymaster or Thrustmaster joysticks from me.
Oh wow.
Um, so uh they all really like to do the load guess, they're right on top of that. They every now and again I'll switch up trailers on them and stuff just to throw them off. I'll change it up, or I won't pack the load so tight, or I won't put so much wood in it, and they're all screaming rigged, 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 so
So, if you could be any 3 people, who would they be and why? I'm talking, it could be from the past, it could be people from current life, uh, rock stars, artists, you know, sports stars, whoever it is. Who would those 3 people be and why?
that's a good question. Well, I'm going to stick to my roots on this one. Randall Probert, the author I told you about, would be one guy I'd love to sit down and just have a beer with and listen to all his stories, because there's so much he didn't put in them books. Like my father actually had an interaction with him, and I would love to hear his side of the story. Um, Another one would be he was pretty good, uh, well-known hunter trapper here in Maine. He went by the name of Walter Arnold. Uh, Really cool character. If you ever get a chance, look up his story. It's just an very interesting guy. Uh, Third person. I don't know if I have a third person. Hmm. No, I don't think I have a third person actually.
Okay, no worries. And then you mentioned that you've been, out in the woods for practically your whole life. Um, did you have a paying job before you went out and started working in the woods?
Yes. Yes, I did. That's what funded the whole operation. I remind you, I lived with dad, you know, from a young boy up, and I there was a point in my life where I said, "The hell with school," and it was very close to my senior graduation too. And I'm so kicked myself in the rear end for not going and finishing that. But I went to work, and I lived with my old man. It was just me and him. So we worked for the same guy. We pretty much rode together for the first couple of years. Um, so he didn't charge me a dime, dude. Like I offered and he would not take. He refused any money for bills, anything. So we're talking from the age of 17 to 22. I banked everything, and we're talking 1400 to $2,000 checks a week.
Wow.
So I that's where I got the money to buy my first piece of equipment, and it's just been onwards and upwards from there.
Well, see, and what's really impressive is the fact that you were not only able to bankroll that, but you're able to just kind of, not go out and spend it. Being so young, most oftentimes, people when they're getting money, especially getting good money, they just go out and blow it on, random stuff kind of thing. But it sounded like you've got, you had your head on your shoulders well enough to where you're like, no, I'm gonna start doing something with this and thinking into the future more than just like the immediate gratification. Um, so sounds like you did it right.
Yeah, you stop. It's like I said earlier. Most people, at that age, they're more worried about where their next pack of cigarettes and their sip of whiskey's coming from. I was more worried about what model fella buncher I was going to buy. So yeah, I did it right. Yeah, I did. Looking back on it, I don't think I would have changed anything. But like I said, we're living with dad. The only bills I had was a phone bill once a month. So what, $70 and food. Like I bought food, but like any old backwoodsman, I live off Vienna sausages and crackers, and so I might have 50, $60 in food for a week. So it's it was it was a good it was a good start for me.
That's awesome. And what was the first set of equipment that you bought?
608 uh fella buncher. Um worked with that for years. That was a clacked out. I mean, that thing I wish I still had it just for the memory, but I'm so glad. The day it went down the road on that low bed, I was so happy inside. I was like, oh, no more of you. The wire, it had so many electrical problems. I was all the time like it was just wore out. I bought it wore out. I but it had a new motor in it and a new hydraulic pump, and that's was like, okay, them are the two big key components right there. I can work on anything else. But I don't know, I didn't wait for the old man to go with me when I went to try it out, and before I purchased it, and that's where I guess that would be my but my if I do it over again, I would have started out with something different. The turntable bearing was pretty much shot in it, and I mean, I worked it that year and got what I could out of it, but that spring we had to split the machine and put a turntable bearing in it, and yeah, that was not only it's not only an expensive fix, it's a very time consuming fix because you literally got to pull the track frame off of the cab of the machine and just lay them both on the ground, and then there's a big geared ring in there. Uh, it's got a bearing in there. It's a big deal. But yeah, the 608 was my first machine, but I sent that down the road and I ended up getting a Tiger Cat, and I've been Tiger Cat all the way ever since. Tiger Cat don't make a dilemma, so I've got a cat dilemma right now. Uh, Cat 320 with a Pro Pack dilemma boom on it. But yeah, I'm Tiger Cat man all the way. So you'll never change me. You'll never turn me back into a John Deere or anything else.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's all the questions I have there for the first segment. So now let's go ahead and set our sights on the chat and see what they have going on there. So first off, I want to give a huge shout out to Dust Bunny. Dust Bunny, thank you so much for everything that you do here for the channel, gathering up all these questions for me. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. First one is a comment from Billy Goat Gaming. Says he sure does make it look easy. Yes, yes, he
That my
does.
boy. That's my boy. No, he's another one. I've told him, get the sticks. I'll train you. I'll train you just as good as I am. Hell, I'll make you better than I am because there's stuff there's it don't look like it in my streams, but there's stuff I could improve on. But it's and it's not the stuff like flipping over and stuff either. There's other like management, like setting up the blocks better and stuff. But no, I appreciate that, Billy Goat.
Let's see. Next question we have is from Why Not Gaming. Why Not asks, what does FAFO mean?
Uh, it's your channel. You tell
uh, basically, it stands for fool around and find out.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
That's the nice way of saying it. Why not? Thank you so much for your question. Greatly appreciate it. We got one here from, let's see. Looks like we got Gaming with Just Joe says he loves Britney Spears.
Well, who doesn't?
I mean, you gotta love Britney.
All
Pre
right.
crazy, post crazy, doesn't matter.
I always like the crazy one, so I'll take her post crazy there.
You always got to have a little crazy.
Yep.
Let's see. Gaming with Just Joe also asks, do you still spike trees, Doc?
No. No. I think he's referring when he says spiking. I think he's talking about a maple syrup thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Or climbing trees. I guess you could spike them that way. But both either way, no to both questions.
All right. Gaming with Just Joe, thank you so much. We got one here from Jaked Up 77. Jaked Up asks, do you use any FDR mods?
I mainly focus on FDR mods. FDR mods are, even though I don't agree with coding, I'm no coder by any means. I've watched Just Joe play with them, and I'm just now starting to look into the coding, like changing horsepower on stuff and all that jazz. But yeah, it's but to get the real feel of the machines, you got to get out of the automatic cut. You got to get out of having the machine do the stuff for you. FDR, he's a millwright. He unloads trucks, so he knows how the loaders operate firsthand. Now the other stuff he goes off what other loggers tell him. But for the real feel of a logging machine, he is the closest I think you will ever find, mod wise for farm sim.
Gotcha. Jaked Up, thank you so much for your question. Let's see. Next one we have here, it looks like actually a long exchange. We got Dirty DTX says, Doc is a very helpful person. He is really good dude.
Well, thank you, Dirty.
Let's see. And
I
we've
appreciate
got,
that.
let's see, Lisa agreeing, and we've got Boganery says, agreed to Dirty. So much
Hell
love
yeah.
being sent Doc's way there.
Good people right there. Real good people.
Let's see. We got Mr. Maddie says, where Mr. FAFO from sounds very northern there, bud.
Maine. I'm up here in northern Maine.
Let's see. Mr. Maddie, thank you so much. We got Boganery says he can hardly grow a beard, let alone a potato.
Oh, so we're starting that. Okay. I'll deal with you after stream. Why don't you just contact Albo and see if he's free for a dinner date later?
Boganery, thank you so much. We got one from Noah Farms. Says, hi Doc, long time no see.
Hey Noah, how you been, buddy? So another thing I do on the side is I make AI music. I have fun making it, It's so like I can't say on your stream what some of the songs are, but like they're little disc burn tracks, with me and the boys. We'll pick on each other. And then I just have the filler, like country music, country rap, to go into the streams. But I made Noah a song there one day, and he really liked it. So he's been hanging around a lot.
That sounds cool. I'll have to check that out one of these days. Let's see. We got one here from The Real Unknown Device. Says, Doc, tell a Sasquatch story.
Well, I don't have a Sasquatch story. The closest thing I ever met to Sasquatch was Boganery.
Speaking of Boganery, says by bull moose you mean Sam Squanch, right?
I mean, I almost rather had Sam Squinch, that big thing looking at me, but close enough.
I don't know what I would be more uncomfortable with. A giant bull moose or a Sasquatch? Eh,
I'd rather. Them horns on that moose can do a lot of damage.
yeah,
According to Bogan, that finger on a Sam Squinch can too. So we'll see what happens.
Whiskey Creek Farm says or asks, do you have any fun stories?
Uh, I have fun stories. Oh yeah, I got all kinds of them. Are they fit for the stream? Nope. Um, I'll fill you in on one later, Whiskey. How about that? I got one just for you.
Nice, very cool. All right, let's see. We also got one here from Majors Gaming says, apologies if this has been asked. What piece of logging equipment do you love and could run all day? Also, what
Fella
equipment
buncher.
would you say that again?
The fella buncher. That's where I feel at home. I I'm very surgical with the fella buncher. I'm very fast. I don't know. I'm in the right mind space. I a fella buncher is my second home.
Let's see. And he also adds, also, what equipment would you like to push down the harder hill?
Push down the harder hill.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess I
I guess just like push down the hill. What set of equipment would you not want?
Oh, okay. Anything John Deere related, send that down first. Um, Barco makes a. They used to make a real decent machine, but nowadays they're trash. We'll send all Barco stuff down over the hill. Uh, but one machine in the woods that I absolutely hate being in. And I've done it for a few days, and I said never again. Is a forder. Send the forder right down over the hill. I'd rather set it with a cable skidder and pull the trees in one by one than have to deal with a forder.
Ooh, okay, I gotcha. Let's see. Majors Gaming, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from Mr. Maddie again. It says, you ever cooked a meal for the crew? I think that's supposed to be out in the woods cutting. If so, what was it?
Actually, yes, I have, and I actually have a short. I went back through a couple of my old phones and pulled together short clips of a road project we were doing. We cut a right away, and then we built a road in. And in that short, you can see that I had a wood fire. I grabbed some chunks of spruce and set a fire, put a cast iron pan down, and we had ham steak and potatoes and onions and everything cooking in it. Well, and I kind of panned up and looked at the road to show the progress of the road. But yeah, we do that all the time. Actually, we got one of them little Coleman grills. The boys will bring up some moose burger and some buns, and we'll have cheeseburgers for lunch. And happens all the time. Actually, now that I think about it.
That's awesome. Love it. Let's see. Thank you so much, Mr. Maddie. We got one from Whiskey Creek Farms. Says, how did you get your name, Doc?
Uh, Two reasons. One I can't say on stream. The second one is I've been told I'm it's just like a little it's like how do I explain this? Um I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm it reverts back to what I just said about being surgical. So they call me a doctor because I like when I'm in the woods, like when I first started gaming, I used to game with a bunch of work friends, people I was associated with through the woods. And it'd be a weekend thing when I had time, and I was sitting there like, you need to make a username, and they're like, well, what are you going to call yourself? Well, at first I had one that I also cannot say on stream, and then that got banned for obvious reasons. But then I'm sitting there like, what can I put? What can I put? And one of my buddies come up and said Doc, and I said why? Like, because you're surgical with a fella buncher. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, but they're like, Well, just name it this. So Doc actually has two meanings. But yeah, he gave me a reason for a good way to explain it and a bad way to explain it, and yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that.
Gotcha. Whiskey Creek, thank you so much for your question there. We got one here from J Meister says, Doc, what made you get into logging? It sounds like
I
your
grew
father
up in
did.
it. I grew up in it. It's all I knew. Most kids had Tonka trucks and sandboxes. I had 300 horsepower diesel engines and flying bark flying by my head. Um, it's just what I knew. It's just what I grew up in. It's what I loved. So yeah, that's pretty much why my life went down that route.
Gotcha. Jay, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from Majors Gaming. Says, I'd like to amend my question, please. It goes for in-game equipment and IRL equipment.
Well, first of all, for in-game equipment, I'm a big fan of FDR. Big fan. But that new yarder he just put out is comical. So I would send that down over the hill, and I'll elaborate on this a little bit. So he set that up. So I don't know much about coding, as I said, but he's made it to lock to the ground with a water well, one of them placeable water well pumps.
Okay.
Like, who the hell is going to carry a water well in their dinner pail to go to work every day? First of all, and second, and second of all, it just looks funky and it acts weird and it just doesn't work. I've put it through all the tests. I've got a video on my channel there of me testing it out, and it pops the collisions and pops out of the thing, and it's just not a very good machine. So if I had to take one machine out of Farm Sim, it would definitely be FDR's yarder. And um also there's a couple I'll tell you what I'm missing in my operation. And if there's any modders out there that want to make me a actual wood chipper with a full belt track that I can lay wood on, that the wood doesn't fall through the feed bed, that would be amazing. Like, every chipper I download has a problem somewhere along the line, and that's really what I'm missing in my operation. But all the in-game chippers, send them down over the hill.
Gotcha. All right. Next one we have here is from actually an exchange between Bo Gainery and Grub307. So Bo Gainery says, Hey Grub, you got a shout out earlier. Grub then replies, Thanks for the shout out. Sorry I missed it. Thanks for letting me know, Bogan. This FAFO guy is such a storyteller, lol, and I'm gonna need an audiobook.
So Grub wants to take hits. All right, I'll deal with him after stream too.
Sounds like you're gonna have to start making a list.
Oh yeah, I got a hit list going right now. They're all getting a song about him.
Next one we have is from Dust Bunny. She asks, Where do you see your channel in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, I'll be honest with y'all. If I never gained another, I just had the speech last night on my stream. I'm so happy and content with the subbies I've got right now. I have a very great community. If I never gained another sub, I'm all right with that. I came here looking for a cool group of people to hang out with, and to play with. I've made some great friends besides the login, like me and Device, Grub, Bogan. Um, there's a handful of people that I play with on the regular, not just Farm Sim. Uh, that if I had to thank YouTube for anything, it would be introducing me to these people because they're just such great fellers. But as far as 5 years from now, I mean, I don't want to say I want to be a full-time content creator because I don't. I do not want to be a full-time content creator. Uh, but I just want to know that in 5 years' times that I've helped a lot more people understand logging and how it works, and not to be scared of it in the game. Even IRL. If logging interests you, there's classes, there's schools, there's all kinds of stuff. There's forestry. Like my high school alone, the high school in my town teaches forestry. Like get on the internet, find your logging classes, get your CLP, get your first aid. The logging industry is in more need for help. Like I've got a bunch of old guys working for me because I can't find nobody young. Nobody wants to do it no more. But if the game interests you and you think it's something you could see yourself doing in real life, there's plenty of websites and just a few Google searches away, and you just have a brain on your shoulders. Logging is literally I was watching a documentary a while ago and they hit it dead on. Logging is probably one of the most dangerous occupations in this world, but it's so rewarding. Uh you never know when a widowmaker is going to fall out of a tree and hit you on the head. There's all kinds of stuff. It requires hard work, yes. There's a lot of uh there's a lot that comes with it, but it's very rewarding. So, like I said, if you like the in-game stuff and you want to change in your life, you think you could do it out of game, IRL, hey, hit it up. You'll get there. I mean, I believe in you.
Let's see. Next one we have here is from Grub. Says, "Hello, he's just a rookie. It comes to the forwarder."
Say that one more time, sorry.
He says that he is just a rookie when it comes to a forwarder.
No, I just know what production is and sitting around. I can't say that on your channel. Let's see. We'll just say yes. We'll just say he's right on this one, but we just know he's not. Because I can't say what I want to say.
Let's see. Grub, thank you so much. We got one here from Wranglosaurus Rex. He asks, what is your first machine you ever drove?
First machine. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting story. I remember my 10th birthday. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. My bedroom light flicks on. My old man says, "Get up, you're coming with me." What the hell? What did I do wrong now? Nothing. I figured I was in trouble. He packed me a dinner and he threw me in the truck and we went to the woods. And first machine I ever run was a 90. Was it 95? 95 or 96 John Deere 648 straight G skidder. And it was the middle of, it was snowing. I remember this. All the twitches were froze to the ground because they'd sat there so long. And that was the best birthday of my life, man. 10 years old and a big piece of heavy machinery, riding wheelies all the way to the yard with twitches of wood behind me. I never forget it.
That would definitely be one to remember. Absolutely. I think that's probably every little boy's dream right there, is be able to go get into some big old monster piece of equipment, something that they're like not even close to being ready to handle, and just sling it around with no worries, no cares kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite birthdays. One I'll never forget.
Wranglosaurus, thank you so much for your question. We got a super chat here from Bo Gainery, $5 Aussie bucks. It says, Doc, how is the new campaign going as manager of the Janet Mills election run? And tell us about your life as a Canadian border jumper.
Okay, okay, so we're playing these games. Um, it's going way better than your life as Elbow's personal servant. And second of all, the border jumper. I mean, don't be jealous just because you can't come to America. I found the right way to do it, and you still can't even get over here. I don't know why you're hating from outside the club. You can't even get in.
Oh, I tell you what, though, after having the conversation with Bo Gainery, we'll welcome him over. Come on over there, Bogey. Let's see. All right. We got one from Gold Gaming asks, Doc, were you having a great friendly sub comp to get to 1,000? Why did you leave me in the dust?
Ah, I don't know, Goldie. That's you got to ask my subbies that. They, I guess I'm just sexier. I got a better, sexier sounding voice, and that's saying a lot because they don't know what I look like. So, I mean, straighten up, son.
Ah, Gold Gaming, thank you so much for your questions. We got one from Robert Weeks. Says, I like FAFO Logging stream.
Oh, Robert, yeah, he's a good boy right there. He comes in my streams. He's all the time trying to give me tickets. I got for overweight, all in loads. Good guy. I like you, Robert.
All right. Thank you so much there, Robert. Again, a couple of quick shout outs there. I want to give a thank you for Bo Gainery for the $5 Australian dollars. Greatly appreciate it. And Grub also became a member of the channel. So thank you, Grub, so very much. Greatly appreciate it. We also got
You
a
might want to
question.
check and you might want to check and see if that money hit the bank account because no one grab it's fake. You probably
Oh, goodness. Was not prepared for all this, and I'm enjoying every second of it. We got a question here from Lisa. It says, what's a simple rule or guideline that you think is most important for your group of players?
don't get frustrated. Um, Starting out logging can be uh, very demanding, very um, it wraps your brain. You overthink stuff, right? Just go at it, find your groove, let the muscle memory kick in. You know, I like when I was helping Device, I stood right there by the loader and I watched him and I'd stop him and I'd say, "Hey, now look, now if you tilt your head like this, you know, it works better." Then after after a couple grabs, I'll see him doing what I told him to, and he still does it to this day. So it's that's why I like helping learn people this stuff because I get to sit down with them. When I get to play with them, I get to sit down with them, watch them work, and literally point out what they're doing wrong so they see it for their own eyes and understand why it's wrong and show them, how to fix it.
Gotcha. All right. And that is all the questions I've got at the moment. So let's go ahead and move on to our second segment here called Meat and Potatoes, emphasis on potatoes. This is where we get to know you for more of your content and what you do here in the Farm Sim community. So the first question I got for you here is currently, do you only produce Farm Sim content or do you produce other types of content as well?
So my channel is based on Farm Sim, but we do venture out into Tarkov, Escape from Tarkov. We do SnowRunner. We've done Repo. So yeah, we venture out. We do a lot more content than just Farm Sim, but uh, I try to keep it mostly Farm Sim because that's what my community likes. I mean, I'm not saying they don't like the other stuff too, but it's uh, it's the reason I'm FAFO logging, right? Is because, and this is the reason I am who I am because of my community. So give the people what they want. So,
I
but yeah, I
gotcha.
do reach out. I do play other games.
So when did you start playing Farming Simulator? Like what game iteration?
Uh, so I started way back in the day. I played 15 when it first came out, and I was on PS5 and I had a controller and I played for like we'll say a week and I said, "Yeah, no, this sucks. I'm not doing this," and jumped right back on Call of Duty. Skip 19, 22 hit. I played 22. Uh, and then this past winter, I went and built my PC. I said, "You know what? The hell with these consoles. There's so much more to do. There's better games on Steam." So I built this big I paid way too much for this thing, but I built this big badass PC, bought a pair of joysticks, set it all up, monitors, the whole shebang. And then I got my first taste of logging with joysticks on Farm Sim, and it just took off.
Let's see. What just happened? Oh, no, we're good. Um, so you started really getting into it back in 22, correct? And then
Yeah.
when did you start making content using Farming Simulator as your medium?
This year, January 13th was my first stream. It was on PC. I mean, I'd upload these little cool clips from my PS5, but that was on a different YouTube account. And I told myself when I started, when I said I was gonna do uh be a content creator, I said let's start fresh. Let's start with a whole new account. And uh but yeah, there's I got another YouTube account. It's got like little 30-second clips of me logging on a controller. And to go back and look at it now compared to what I'm or go back and look at that compared to what I'm doing now, it's like, wow, that guy's a joke.
Real quick there, I just realized that, well, I just saw the comment from Lisa. I completely missed out on saying thank you for your question. Lisa, I do apologize. Thank you so much for your question. Next one we've got is what's one thing that you never expected when you started your channel? So some examples I give are sense of community, unexpected backlash, things along those lines. What's one thing that happened that you didn't think would?
Uh I won't get too much into it, but there was this one streamer that came in uh to my channel, thought he was doing a good thing for me, and literally hurt me more than he helped me. I spent weeks with Google trying to unscrew the situation he put me in, and making my account good again, and I would say that, and the other situation with somebody I won't name, where I went all out on them trying to help them, and they screwed me over. So yeah, them are the two things.
Wow. Can you elaborate on what happened that made you have to go and change things around, or like you don't have to say like who it was or anything like that, but
I got botted. A guy came into my stream, and I was talking about when I hit. So we were sitting there talking, and I said, when I hit 250, I'll do this. When I hit 500, I'll do this. When I hit 1,000, I'll do this. And the guy said in stream, okay, bet. Or be careful. No, he didn't say okay, bet. He said, be careful what you wish for. And then it was nothing but trouble after that. And I literally, like, I got to the point, like, I've still got the emails from Google where they wanted me to, like, pretty much rat this guy out. And that now I wish I would have. Looking back, I wish I would have, because that almost ended my content right there. I didn't want that to be associated with that. Nothing. Uh, it pissed me off. I warned other streamers of said situation, and because there was talks of him doing the same thing for other people, and I went around showing, warning, showing, screenshots and all this, saying, hey, if this happens, this is why, it happened to me. Be careful. I mean, Farm Sim is such an amazing community, and there's always, every community has a few rotten apples. Um, I think I came in at a time where the last few rotten apples were still being weeded out, and um, but now they're gone, and uh, it's been good. It's been good for me. Uh, I took off. People. I have a great community. Um, but yeah, no, them two things right there is what really opened my eyes to how evil how careful you got to be with people on the internet. Especially like little communities like this. I would have never thought, somebody would do what they did to me on that, but they did it.
now for those who don't understand what botted means, you mind just elaborate on what that is?
So botting is So they liked what I was doing, and botting is paying. I guess it's a. I don't know much about this. It's paying some kind of platform, program, app, something to go in and randomly subscribe and leave a like on your video. And well, he botted me with like a lot. I can't remember the exact numbers, but Google ended up removing it was like over 600 bots off my account. Uh, like I said, I worked with them for weeks. They're like, and like I've literally got emails. They're like, "Do you know this person?" Or they'd send me a list. I'm like, I don't know any of that." Or, but it was just they pretty much begged me, because I'm not a rat. I wasn't here to make riffles in the waves. I wasn't here to. I'm still new to it all, and I so wish I would have turned him in and just took the hit and said, yeah, he's a rat, whatever, But uh, I don't know. I did warn the people about what he was threatening to do, but
That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a crazy little adventure I had to go on first week or first month of being a content creator.
Yeah, that's I've always said, and I still maintain it to this day, that Farm Sim is, I think, one of the best communities, if not the best community that I've certainly ever belonged in. And it's one of those where, it's shocking at how one or two bad apples can ruin entire experience, and that's not even something that's like a little like screw up kind of thing. It's not like somebody came
Yeah.
to your channel, like started saying something, off the wall bonkers in chat or whatnot, and you didn't catch it or whatnot, and got in trouble for it, kind of thing. That's something that
Hmm.
like has such a profound ramification for you, for your channel, and all that stuff. That, I mean, if Google wanted to, they could have held you personally responsible and saying, this is you problem, not a him problem, kind of thing.
Right. And the reason they didn't is because I went to them. I said, "Hey, look, something's not right here. Help me." And I was such a new. It took so long. It took so long because I was such a small YouTuber. I didn't have the representative and all that stuff. Once you become monetized, that you have. Uh, so it's, but the guy never thought it through, right? So when he did that, and now I had my demographics were like Malaysia, Taiwan, all overseas stuff. All these regions were my biggest watchers, and it threw my whole demographic of my channel way off. So YouTube wasn't pushing my stuff in the US or Canada or Mexico. It was pushing it over there. And I don't speak Japanese. I don't speak all that other languages. So, it's I don't know. He screwed me more than he thinks, because it was like I had to work hard and endlessly with shorts and just to get myself back in the US demographic. It was crazy.
Yeah, and that's probably the wild thing too, is they probably thought that they were doing you a favor, kind of thing.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh, you want subs? You want to do the 12-hour stream?" No, I want it to be organic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't come in here and say, "Hey, look at me, I'm a big 2K streamer." No, to me, I'm just a little guy in a big guy's world doing my thing and hanging out with my friends.
Yep, that's exactly it. I 100% relate to that. So, would you consider Farm Sim to be your favorite game? And if not, what is?
Hmm. Favorite? I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I would say it's in the top 3. But if I had to put my money right now on what my favorite game would be, and I'm very excited because 1.0 is coming out, is Escape from Tarkov. I'm a shooter at heart. I love shooter games. Uh, so, but I've been having a lot of fun with Bogan and the boys over on SnowRunner. 1,000 hour SnowRunner, as Bogan would say. Uh, but No, I'd have to say my top three list is EFT, SnowRunner, and then Farm Sim. But back in the day, I used to be, oh man, I was so hardcore into a game called Ark Survival Evolved. Like I had a server, I was running a cluster, in my free time. Like I had moderators. I had like I was probably 400 people in there. And we had a pretty good little cluster going there. And then it became a headache because everybody was crying and whining about, oh, that this guy did this to me and this did this. And I'm like, I'm already running a business. I'm not trying to do this. It was supposed to be fun. I got my
Mm-hmm.
first taste of being a server owner, and it lasted all of a year, a little better. And I just shut it down. But Ark would definitely it'd be a hard. Ark holds a little place in my heart because it's probably the first game I really got addicted to. So I uninstall it. I'll get sick of it and I'll uninstall it, and then a couple months will go by and I'll see all this new stuff that comes out. I'm like, oh man, I really want to get back in there. Like right now, I just put a server up the other day for Ark, so me, Bogan, and the boys could play Ark. Uh, but it's kind of a love-hate relationship with that game too, because we're talking. I'd leave my PlayStation on all day long, spinning in circles, and I'd call the old lady at work. I'm like, go over and feed my dinos, will you, so they don't die. Oh. I'd
I,
literally drive the buncher all the way out to the pickup and go up to we had a place on the 7 Mile called Phone Booth Hill where you just got enough reception, and I'd call her like, feed my dinos or do this for me. She'd be like, will you grow the hell up?
I tell you what, if I called up my wife and said, "Hey, could you set my workers up on my farm and do X, Y, or Z?" She'd be like, "No." she, I'm pretty sure that she would just look at the phone, like one of these numbers, just have it right in her hand, just like, and then just hang up on me. Oh goodness, that's
uh
funny. So, walk us through like your typical day where at the end of it or at some point in that day you create content. So you get up out of bed in the morning, walk us through the rest of the day where content is being made.
so right now where I'm home all the time, so I get up in the morning, I'll have my coffee, talk to the wife before she heads out, and usually fry myself up some bacon and some eggs or something. I'll play with the dogs for a bit, do whatever, check. I've got two phones here, one for work and one for personal. And I'll check my phones, and literally I'll get on, do my work on I use my gaming computer also as my work computer. That's why I spent so much of my money on it, because it was a tax cut. Uh so
Love it.
so uh I'll do my work, whatever I need to do, billing, receiving, whatever, parts ordering. And I and then I get into the content side of it. Like after I'm done with everything, and I make sure the dogs are fed and watered, everything, they've been in and out, whatever. I'll pop open YouTube and I'll start flipping through streams, start my day off by watching whoever's on at that time. If nobody's on, I'll open up, we'll say Farm Sim, and I'll just sit there for a little bit and think, how could I do this block different, or how could I do this? And I'm actually working on a project right now. I'm making myself some new intro and outro scenes and a be right back scene. Well, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but one of them you guys are really going to enjoy. Um, it might include some real life stuff. Uh, but then I just, once, so it's hard for me to set a schedule to stream because I never know how my day's going to go. Like I said, that phone could ring and I'm out the door, right? So if I schedule a stream for 2 o'clock in the afternoon and the phone rings at 1 o'clock and I'm 80 miles in the woods, it's kind of hard to stream. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, scheduling is a big part that I struggle with on streaming. I wish I could set but it's more in my winter months. What I was doing is like I was telling my community in the winter months, I was doing one stream in the morning for a few hours, and then one like 4 hour stream in the evening. And it's almost winter time here, so I want to be able to get back into that pretty quick. So, uh, but yeah, it's mainly just setting up. Like, I know I do stream on Twitch a little bit, when I just want to hang out and have fun and actually have real music. So you can find me on Twitch at FAFO Logging too. Um, I'm also getting ready to set that up into dual integration so I can stream both places at the same time. But anyway, I fire up the stream, just grab my joysticks and I'll go log in. I'll sit there and talk to whoever's in the chat, laugh, joke, have fun, and then I shut her down and go in, kiss the old lady goodnight, and brush my teeth, and I'm in bed. It's I do work out during the day. I noticed after the first few months of sitting home so much, I started, because I was on the go all the time. I always get a workout in, and I was on the go all the time. My muscles were kind of getting like weaker. I said, "Yeah, this ain't gonna happen." So I invested in I got a treadmill here, and I got an exercise bike, and I got she's a TikTok shopper. She found this vibrating plate thing here and it works. It really strengthens up your calf muscles. But no, that's pretty much my day.
Gotcha. So, how hard was the transition for you from, basically going for a good majority of your life? It sounds like you said you were 35, you said?
Yep.
And you said you've been going out into the woods at least since you were 10 years old, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I didn't have school, I was with Dad in the woods. That's all it was. So I've been in the woods at a young age.
So it's one of those where you've spent a good majority of your life out in the woods working and picking up this kind of trade. How difficult was it for you outside of the lack of getting back out into the woods, but how difficult was the transition from being out in the woods doing the kind of, the heavy labor side of the business versus now you're kind of on the back end doing all the like the technical things for the business itself?
It was a huge shock, and I've still not adjusted to it. So one thing about being a logger is you're going to suffer from insomnia, guaranteed. Um, so there's some nights like I'll play with Bogan till 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, grab a 15-minute cat nap, and then I'm up all day. Uh, that just stems from loading trucks. You catch your little 15-minute cat naps and wait for you load your round of trucks, catch another 15, 20-minute cat nap, load another round of trucks. But I think what hits me the most, and I still ain't got over it, is I'll wake up in a dead sweat thinking I've overslept. And many a times now, the last time I did it, I tripped over the dog and face planted into the floor, but I jumped up pretty much running, uh, and thinking I was late for work. It just ain't adjusted in my head yet that I don't have that responsibility right now.
That is one of the worst feelings in the world is that sudden wake up. You're like in a dead sleep and all of a sudden you wake up and all of a sudden you think that you're so beyond late. I can't think of another feeling that is like a worse feeling than that. Is
Oh,
that jarring wake up.
it's awful because I'm always thinking that I'm late to run the loader, and I'm thinking, oh God, there's truck drivers up there, they're waiting on me. RJ's probably got the crane running. They're all fucking sitting there. They're all sitting there making fun of me. Like, where the hell is this lazy guy? It's just, and then it's like, oh yeah, you don't do that no more. And then I'm up because I've woke up and I've already got my adrenaline rushing, and it's just I'm up. There's no going back to sleep for me. I mean, there's
Yeah.
times, like I say, I suffer from insomnia. I suffer from insomnia. There's times Like I'll get in my groove where I don't sleep for 3 or 4 days, and then I'll crash.
Okay.
So,
So, thinking back to the versions of Farm Sim that you've played up until this point, what would you say would be your most and least favorite maps that you've been on?
uh, No Man's Land. I love that map.
It's a great map.
Um, yeah, it gave me. I built my own town there. I had my own little login empire. Home Ekra, another great login map. Love that one. Um, we just got a main logging map a few weeks ago. I think Newell made it. Newell Gaming. I'm a big fan of it, mainly because it's the same area I've worked most of my life, and I know it like the back of my hand, and I never use the map system on it because I already know where I am.
Wow, that's
But
impressive.
um, this new one I started playing, I can't pronounce it. Don't even ask me to because I'll butcher it. I usually have Bogan tell me what it is. I think you and me talked about it. You know which one it is. Um, that's a really good login map. Been a great map on that, or a great time on that login.
I think
Uh,
I think it was what Palinate, Palinate Forest.
yes, yeah, Palinate. I think that sounds right. Um, what was that one called? Was it Deadwood?
Mm-hmm. By Poor
There's,
Boy.
yep, yeah, I like that one, the forestry side of it. Uh, oh, there's been great. See, I've always go after the forestry maps, even when I was just on a controller. I always went after the forestry maps because it felt more like home for me. Like I go out my door, I don't see. My closest neighbor's 2 miles down the road, dude. So if I wanted to walk down to the mailbox naked as a jaybird to get the mail, I could. So it's weird to me to watch YouTube and see all these big cities and stuff. Like that's why I don't like traveling. It's I feel so out of my element when I go into these cities. It's like up here in the northern woods, all you got around you is trees, squirrels, moose, deer, and rabbits. It's like you don't have neighbors push straight up to your foundation of your house, and so I like the really wooded maps. It's just who I am.
Well, call me jealous, not necessarily of you going out to your mailbox naked as a jaybird, but being out in the middle of nowhere and not having to see a neighbor for the next 2 miles. So, if you could pick any map throughout the FS history that you've played on that you could just snap your finger, bring it to FS 25, what would that map be and why?
Now I haven't checked in a while, and this could have already been done. But Homekra. Uh,
So, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a map that at bare minimum reminded me of a lot of it, and it was here recently that dropped.
I might have to find that. But Homekra was amazing to me, dude. I liked I liked how they sorted the types of trees into different plantations, and I
Yes.
liked how there was the like steep hill. Remember that one road there, like if you didn't have a high horsepower truck, you weren't getting up that thing. That's it just felt real to me, It's now that I've got this new map I'm playing and then the main login map, I would say Home Ecra actually holds a spot in my heart for that.
So the only reason that I'm necessarily familiar with Hamarkra is because of Mr. Sealy P. He did a series on that map a long time ago, and it was one of those that I know exactly what road you're talking about. At least I think I do. It was towards the northern end of the map. They're almost center of the road, and there was this little, like almost cutout or gully at the. If you were going up the road, it would have been to the right. And I just remember him cutting down trees and him just letting them roll down the side of the hill into this little gully.
Yep, yep. No, that's the road.
So let me ask you this, because obviously, somebody like myself, I'm sure Mr. Sealy P, would fall in this category as well. But we know nothing about logging. How would you, as a professional, tackle that specific? Like, if you were logging that hillside, right? and you got the gully at the bottom. You got the one road that's darn near sheer on it. How would you attack something like that?
So I do a little trick that I picked up from. Did you ever watch the show American Loggers on Discovery?
Briefly.
I worked around them. I'm actually. I need to find that episode to show Bogan, but I'm in the background running an old John Deere skidder in one of the episodes. Uh,
Really?
yep. Uh, so I had an old French Canadian guy teach me this one time. We call it staircasing. So the buncher, this is the problem with logging. The buncher can go way further than any skidder could. And you need to be mindful of that when you're bunching trees because you can literally screw yourself over. Because if the skidder can't get to it, that's just wood sitting there that's going to rot, right? So it just sits there. So this old guy named Al taught me the stair stepping trick where I walk up, and what I do is when I put the bunch, like I lay a bunch down, before I lay that bunch down, I take the butt, I rotate my head and I take the butt of the head and I stick it in the ground and I claw a step into the ground. Not only for the wood to have something to dig into, but so the skidder tires have something to rest on as traction. Uh, so yeah, I would definitely staircase that. And but it's depending if it's wintertime, depending on the elements, is the wood slippery? Are you gonna have to build little J bridges? There's so many elements that come into play on that one. Uh, but yeah, I would definitely do the staircase trick.
So I mean, to me, and again, as the kind of layman in the room, it really sounds like, in order to be like a professional logger like yourself, I mean, you've got to know so much, not just hey, cut here, throw there kind of thing. It's not, it's nowhere near that simple. But it sounds like you need to know, I mean, starting with weather and terrain, traction, the type of vehicle that you're in, the
Hmm.
runoff, and like all these different elements in it. I mean, I'm sure that you learn this stuff over many years, but how would you get somebody in? Like, let's say you got a new person on your crew, and it's your responsibility to train them. What's going to be that one piece of equipment that they're going to run first?
Get her. They're gonna get in a skidder, and uh, because literally the only thing they can do is roll it over, and as long as they cut that key off on their way over, it's an easy fix. Um, with a fellow buncher, they can cut across property lines. They can, and then uh, they can do so much damage. Cut the wrong type of tree, cut a endangered, like not an endangered tree, but a forbidden tree. So when we do clear cuts, every 100 feet, we have to leave one tree standing. Now, this one tree is used for birds to have a place to land and rest, so they can get stamina to keep flying. Uh, there's a lot that goes into it. You when you're in a fellow bunch, you're the main guy. You're the one that starts the show. You're the one you're the one that gets frowned upon if something goes wrong because you're the one that cut the wood. You're the one that set the deck up. You're the one, you know. And then it's just there's no way I'd put a new guy in a fellow buncher. Never been in the woods before, starting out. Never, no way. Now in a dilemma, he wouldn't get in that either because the dilemma man is what makes me my money. He can look at a tree and say, "Hey, is that going to be a piece of pulp, or is that going to be a piece of studwood, or is that going to be a piece of high grade?" And if he don't know his difference, I'm losing dollars on the trees. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like my old man always pounded in my head. Every foot of wood matters. Like even though if you can take it down to a 3 inch top on take it right down so that the tree's 3 inches on the top and has 10% or less of rot in the center of the tree, the mill will take that all day long. Yeah, it looks bad, but they can still get a 2x4 out of it. And they'll buy it all day long. A lot of people will saw that up, send it back in the woods. Not me. I've got my guys, so they take everything, and that's how I've, it's that little bit of knowledge my father taught me. It's just, yeah, it looks awful, but there's a 2x4 in that 2x4 sells for $7. You're gonna make a couple dollars off that board, pick it up, you know.
Yeah, get
So
every penny you can.
yep.
So we established that a new guy, they'd be on the skidder, just kind of. So for those of us who aren't familiar with all the kind of terms and stuff that you're throwing around here tonight, the skidder does what?
So the skidder follows around the fella buncher. Well, they don't follow me around because I get way ahead of them. But so anywhere, and I just recently in the last 2 years started running a GPS system. I run this app on my iPad called Avenza, and anywhere I go, it tracks me, right? And the skidder man can look at that and say, well, he's got trails here, 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 and here. He goes in, he gets that wood off that trail, and he brings it out roadside onto the yard, which is a big flat piece of land that I had cut out with the buncher so that we have a place to pile the wood and work, strip the trees of the limbs and bark. And uh so all he's doing is being a gopher. He's going in, getting the wood and bring it to the yard, dropping it in front of the limmer, grabbing onto the brush that the limmer put up off the last twitch he dropped, taking it back in the woods and scattering it out where he's driving. Now it's up to him how rough of a day he wants, because this is what I tell him. Yeah, you're supposed to, the landowners want to see that brush scattered nice and level and even. Build a highway out of it. And this is what I tell him. It's up to you how good your ride's going to be, how much time you work on your brush. If you just want to go in and dump clumps of brush everywhere, you got to climb over it and beat your head off the side of the cab doing it. And usually I'll catch them. They'll first day or so they'll go in, they'll just drop their brush everywhere, and then finally they get sick of beating their head off the side of that cab. So it's like, maybe I'll take an extra minute and spread this out so it's nice and smooth to run over. So the skidder actually teaches you a lot just by running it.
Gotcha. And then how do I ask this question? So if let's say you're out in the woods and you got the new guy out there doing their thing, going back and forth with the skidder, going into the yard and all that. What opportunities are you able to take in order to teach them to be able to graduate to other sets of equipment? Let's say they're been there for a while and you need them to kind of move on to the next set of equipment, whether it's to cover or whatever the case may be. How do they grow throughout your organization?
So they'll start, like, if they're fresh to the logging industry, they're going to get in that skidder, and their first 2 or 3 twitches, I will be inside that skidder with them. I will say, this is how you hook onto your trees. You don't want to grab it too far back, because when you lift up, it's going to be pushed into your rear end cover. And it's just, if you're coming down a hill, that twitch is just going to push you. You're going to lose control. I'll teach him little tricks like that. And then I get out and I literally just sit in the pickup and I watch in time. I literally get the stopwatch on my phone, and I'll because I've already calculated, I've already seen how long it took us to go get a twitch. So if he starts taking longer than that, I know something's wrong or he's in there goofing off. So he goes back and forth, and he's learning. His first day is always his roughest because he's learning what controls what this joystick does, what this little knob joystick does. What pedal does what. It's hydraulic steering in the skidders nowadays, so it's like he's got to get used to the way it steers. But by day 2 or 3, he's usually picking up. Now, by the first week, you can have yourself a pretty decent, you know, time in the seat is key. They got to have time in the seat to understand the machine. They need to learn the machine and its capabilities, and and get comfortable with it. So we're, I'm not. There's no way I'm going to put a skidder man in a limmer. Just after the first couple weeks, they're going to be with me a few years. And what they benefit from that is they get to sit on the yard when the limmer's already working on a twitch and watch that limmer and watch all the little tips and tricks that guy's doing, like rolling the tree in the bunch and getting that limb, or way he sets up his brush piles, or the way he sets up his piles. What stud wood he gets to sit there and stare at the wood piles too. Like that's a high grade pile. Why is that not in or that piece of pulp? Why is that not high grade? And if he's got a question, he gets on the two-way radio and he says, "Hey Dave, what's going on with this?" And the guy will tell him, it's less than 10% rot, or it's oversized or whatever. And so a limberman and a skitterman are a key team. They work together. They ride together. They work together. They're pretty much each other's boyfriends. Uh, but if the one breaks down, because if the skidder ain't running, the limber ain't running. So if one breaks down, they're both shut down to fix it. Two men on one machine gets each other back going in no time. So you're always going to graduate in my operation from a skidder to a limber. Now, to run a limmer, that's a whole different animal, because you got to know your species, you got to know your sizes, you got to know so much, so much. And you got to be up to date with, like, every Sunday they stop by and I'll print them out a list of what the mill's requirements are for that week. Is the mill running softwood 2x4s, kin dry? What do they want this week? So they make sure that's on top of the pile and not on the bottom of the pile. So when the crane man comes in, he doesn't have to sort through the pile to get to the wood that needs to go to the mill. It's already on top of the pile. You know what I mean? Uh it's but once he's in that limmer, he's going to stay in that limmer for a good, his first month is going to be so rough, because me and the forester are going to be right on his rear end, telling him, hey, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, because he's my moneymaker. He decides if I'm getting a piece of high grade, the price of high grade, or pulp out of that piece of wood that he's limbing. So he's my moneymaker. So he's going to get the most attention. And then from the limmer, they're gonna get into the loader. Now I have a Tiger Cat 234B that is truck mounted on an old Paystar 5000, and it has a tow behind Pro Pack slasher. Now what that slasher does is, if we get a good high grade log or veneer log, um, the limberman will leave it tree length, and the loader man will slash out that log 16/6, 12/6, 8/6, all different lengths. What he can get the most for like the loader man. It's key to be in the limber before you're a loader man, because you've already got the basics of learning, what's valuable, what's not, what's junk, what's good. So he can slide like them up. We're talking big money logs he's slashing out. Like, I got into a run of bird's eye once, and I personally wouldn't even let nobody cut them but me, because I had such a well-trained eye for the slasher. But you're going to be in the woods at least 10 years before you get in a fella buncher for anyone. A fella buncher is the main, that's the big daddy right there. That's what runs the show, believe it or not. Because the fella buncher's got to keep the landowner happy. If the landowner ain't happy, you ain't got a job. So, but yeah, it's just little steps like that you get you brought up in through the ranks and through the company here.
Gotcha. And let's see. I took a look at the time and just realized that we are almost 2.5 hours now. Normally I cut it off at about 2. I still got questions though, and I think we got some questions from the chat. Are you still good to keep going, or?
I am more than willing to keep going. Like I said, I got insomnia, so I won't probably see sleep until 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I'll hopefully we won't be on for that long. But all right, no, we'll keep on going. So let me ask you this. When Farming Simulator 25 was coming out, we were starting to get that kind of slow drip of information on all the features to be expected for the game. what was that one feature that you were most excited about?
Hmm. I don't think there really was a feature that really drew my attention as much as it was just having logging in a game where I could actually do what I do in real life in a video game. You know what I mean? Because you don't see logging simulator. You see farm simulator with logging built into it, but you go play these other little logging games and it's like click this, do this, push this button, do that. It's not logging. So it was the whole logging aspect within the game that really brought my attention to the farm sim. There was
Okay.
no features or anything like that.
So let's say tomorrow you received a phone call and it's a representative from Giants, the creator of the game. And they're like, Doc, we came out with the Platinum Edition, DLC in FS22, where we emphasized a bunch of stuff for, forestry, and we end up coming out with the containers, and we came out with certain bits of equipment, and we came up with winches, and we came up with all this kind of stuff, but it was all kind of really suited towards the kind of general player kind of thing, not really somebody who's very intimate with the whole logging operations. And they call you up and say, what's something that, from your professional point of view, what's one thing that we could add to the game that would make logging a more fun experience for you? What would that one thing be?
Well, first of all, I have bittersweet feelings about that DLC. I believe that should have been base game. That should never been a paid DLC. I mean, it's winches and little things like that that should have been incorporated in the game. That was just a money grab. But if he called me tomorrow and said all that, um, uh, geez, I don't know, honestly. He something that's towards me, right?
Well, not even necessarily towards you, but what's something that you would want them to add that you think would either bring more realism to your operation, or like what's the
Oh,
one thing that you feel is so lacking that you wish was a part of the game that would be incorporated from your experiences as a professional?
tree physics on 100%. They need to fix the trees. The trees need to be able to bend. They need to be pliable. You ain't gonna tell me that that little Scotch pine that you just cut that ain't no bigger than a toothpick is gonna roll over a 40,000 pound machine. You know what I mean? It's just not gonna happen. Uh, and they need to really look in and rework their tree physics 100%. Even when you're loading a truck, you sit there and so like on my streams, you'll notice I throw anything that's real small related or has a crook in it right in the trash pile. I refuse to put that in a load of logs to go to the mill. Two reasons. One, the collisions on them, they're so awful that they'll actually make the wood, like you'll be sitting way away from them and it'll make the wood walk. Like the bottom of the wood, let's say the bottom of say you're looking at a load of wood right now. The bottom half of that load will go towards the back of the trailer, while the top half of that load goes towards the front of the truck. And it will actually also another thing it does is it makes it bubble. Like it leaves such big air pockets in between the trees. It's there's some kind of weird collision going on there with them, and there's just garbage physics for the trees. But and Scotch pine shouldn't be never put in a map. I will say that again. I'll die on that hill. Take the Scotch pines out.
So, with all your experience out in the woods there, I would reasonably assume, at least I think it would be reasonable to assume, that you could identify just about any species that is native to your local area. Is that pretty safe to say?
Yeah, that's something you have to learn real quick. That's probably that's like you got to learn your species. You got to learn like age of the tree. You've got to learn if the tree's got a disease, what diseases look like. There's a lot to it. Like I could set a fir and a spruce down on the ground. And 90%, if I ask the person standing beside me that's never been in the woods before, which one's the spruce, they will get it wrong.
Okay. And are you familiar with an old television show? It is pretty old now. Old television show called Home Improvement.
Old Tim Allen.
Old Tim Allen. Yep, yep. Uh, are you familiar with a lot of the episodes? Have you seen it or?
I watched it a lot, my younger years, but I'd always have TV going on in the background while I was doing chores and stuff around the house. But
So the reason I ask is there's an episode that, in anticipation for this, knowing that you are, out in the woods all the time, that you're obviously, very skilled in what you do. It's very translatable from the experiences that we've seen in game. There's one episode that always kind of stood out to me as something that was, interesting, but also kind of applicable and funny here. Um, so the episode in particular is one where Al Borland, Tim Allen or Tim Taylor in the show, his co-host of the TV show that they did, claimed that he could identify wood from the smell. And it was just one of those, not thinking that you can do that, but it was just one of those where I got to like that. It's somehow my brain works in mysterious ways, and that when like I was thinking about this interview and whatnot, that just came rocketing into my brain, and it was just one of those where there's got to be like very specific cues that you learn over the years that helps you identify all the different species that are out there. And I'm sure that a lot of it is that because you are in a very specific area in your neck of the woods there, that you're able to very easily identify them because of your experience. Are there any little like tricks or tips or hints that you have over the years that allows you to denote certain species?
so I will say this: for me being in the woods as long as I have, I 100% for my native area trees can tell by the smell of what tree that is. A cedar, a hemlock, a spruce, and a fir all smell totally different when you cut them. Especially if the saw, if like when it's laying on it's sitting in the buncher head and it's still touching the saw will actually leave a burn mark on the bottom of it, and you can smell it. But yes, there is you can identify trees by smell. At least 95% of the trees you can. Uh, Identifying markers. On a fir, you'll see a lot of green moss growing on the side of it. On a spruce, not so much. They'll have little patches, but not as much. That's why we call them fir. It's because they got fur all up the bark of them. Um, Rings, the whiteness of the tree. Uh, how thick the bark is. Like how much offset is to the pulpwood. To the pulp of the tree, to the bark of the tree. There's all kinds of identifying factors. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a YouTuber that I follow. Every once in a while, I'll catch some of their content. But um, what I most know them for is they will go out into the woods and they will identify and they will cut down a very specific species of wood, whatever the case may be. And what they'll do is they'll do multiple things. One, they'll sit there and use it for woodworking. And every time they will make a bowl and a spoon out of the specific species of wood. But then they'll take the chips that are from this specific species and they'll make ice cream out of it. Um, it's one of those that are there times when you're out in the woods where you, because of your experience with the trees and all that, that you're able to just be like, you know what, I'm a little peckish. Let me go and eat some of the kind of local flora kind of thing.
Maple gum. You can go find a maple tree and there's sap. take a jackknife and you crack or crack, scrape that off the side of the tree. As long as it ain't got white on it, you can chew on that. It's maple gum. It's literally just from a maple tree. Uh, we have lots of raspberries around here. We get raspberries, we get choke cherries, we get blueberries. Uh, Not very often you find wild blueberries in the woods, though. At least not where I'm working. But I have found them before. But yeah, I mean, if I had to live off the land during the summer, I could do it. Off just if I never went home for a week and I had to survive the week in the buncher, I'd be missing a lot of protein. But yeah, I could do it.
And as a content creator, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's looking to start out in this field?
As a content creator,
Mm-hmm.
uh, don't try to go too big too quick. Understand understand the program before you try to conquer. Um, learn about the analytics. Learn about what everything is. Learning is key. That's me. That's what I like to do. I like to. I'll sit here with something and I'll read everything I can about it until I fully understand it. Um, but make sure your tags and all that. Tags are a big thing. Make sure everything's in check, all your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. Like, I'm horrible with spelling. Like, it's not so much I'm horrible with spelling as it is I'm a wicked fast typer and I don't proofread. So my first earlier days, I still mess up every now and again, and I won't catch it until the end of the stream or I rewatch something but you just don't try to go major overnight, I guess. Take it nice and slow. You'll find your community. I know, like me and Billy Goat had a conversation last night. I asked him kind of why he hadn't been streaming, and I kind of felt it wasn't like a disappointment, but it was like he didn't feel like he was getting the attention. So if I had one favor right now to ask to anyone is if you guys see Billy Goat streaming, check him out. He does some pretty cool stuff. He puts a lot of heart and soul into his content too. So it's I want to show that boy some love, but definitely don't get too big for your britches, as I say. Start out small.
Gotcha, gotcha. And what would you consider to be your most memorable moment in your content creation career so far?
Memorable moment. So, I do this trick, and it kind of everybody gets a kick out of it. So, when I move blocks, when I move from one cut to the next, right? Uh, I do it all in one trip. I don't. I'll take three machines all in one trip. So I put the buncher on first, and then I put the loader on next, and I'll back the skidder up to the low bed, and I'll grab it with the boom right by the arch of the skidder, and I'll pick the back end of the skidder up in the air, and I lock her all down, and we let her eat all the way to the next block. I've got shorts. I got a short of me doing that. It's probably one of my best shorts I've ever done.
Okay, and I think the last question I've got for this segment here would be if you had, excuse me, if you had the ability to make a map of real life, so you had all the prerequisite knowledge, you had the knowledge of coding and the knowledge of the Giants editor and the Lua scripting and all that kind of stuff there, where would that map be based off of and why?
Mount Katahdin in Maine, within like the probably if I could within like 20 miles of the center of Mount Katahdin, just because of the terrain, how good of logging it is there, and how it challenges you and your logging abilities. Not there. If I could get a one-for-one copy of the terrain to go into that would be amazing. Like, I always had a lot of fun working that ground down there in real life. In game where I it wasn't going to cost me if I messed up. I could try little things. I'll be honest with you. I've actually been testing. So this is kind of, I haven't told no one this. I'll test different scenarios on the game before I tell the boys to do it in the woods. Like I'll be sitting here some night and I'll be like, I wonder what would happen if I had the skidder come in this way. And I'll play it out on the game, and then I kind of see it before it happens in real life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. Let's see. And I just saw this. Billy Goat said that he said thank you and he appreciates it. Billy Goat, if you want to drop a link to your channel, feel free. I give you permission. That would be fine. And then, yeah, like I said, that's the last question I've got for this segment here. So let's go ahead and set our sights back on the chat. Why is my phone doing that now? There we go. Again, big thank you for Dust Bunny for all the work that you've done here, gathering up all these questions and comments. Greatly appreciate you, Dust Bunny. The first one we got here is from Mr. Maddie. It says, "Have you ever stopped by? Have you ever stopped by Dot? What's best, worst time, and any infractions on truck and etc." Hmm.
So I've never been hit by the DOT for logging, but back in my younger years, I used to haul potatoes for a farmer, and they got me on what we call this Powerhouse Hill. It's it's a steep hill, and I was getting a run for it because I was way overweight. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I left in the middle of the night to get up to McCain's uh, before they opened because that truck should have never been that heavy. But it was it was the last bushels of potatoes that was in that friggin' in the potato cellar, and we just wanted to fit it all in one truck to get it up there. And well, I was going along, and I was cuffing her right along, probably 70, 75, and I blew a front steer tire on the passenger side. And wouldn't you know it, I blew it right beside the little turnout where the white we call them we call DOT way wagons. It's where the way wagon was sitting, and oh my god, he went up one side of me and ran down the other. I was lucky I never went to jail because back then I was quite feisty. Well, I'm still quite feisty, but I can control it now compared to back then. Uh, just a little off topic. Just to tell you just how feisty I got there one day. Uh, when I first started out in the woods, that's right when I bought my first skidder. The guy told me what he was going to do, and I told him that's not how it was going to work, and he got a little mouthy. Well, I stuffed him inside the skidder rim. Uh, I grabbed him right by the shirt collar and stuffed him right inside the skidder.
Oh.
But nowadays I'm a lot more calmer. But yeah, it's a miracle I didn't go to jail that night. He had me for worn kingpins, worn brakes, he had me for everything. He could have threw the book at me if he wanted to.
Phew. It sounds like you certainly got the right person at the right time.
Yeah, yeah, he was. Well, what saved me was it was one of Dad's old poker buddies. So,
Oh, okay, okay. That's good circumstances of what it sounds like to me.
and according to Dad, he owed him money, so it's probably why he never wrote me up. So he owed him poker money.
Calling in the favors.
Yeah. I've almost felt indebted to pay his debt after that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could see that one. Again, Mr. Maddie, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from JC Farms. It says, "Doc, love your streams."
I appreciate that, JC. Yeah, JC comes in and hangs out and likes to watch, and he's a good cat to have around. I like him. He's a good guy.
Let's see. JC, thank you so much for your comment. We got one here from Swim Shady. Says, "What's the deal with that fog on the new map Bog? It's crazy thick."
Oh, I think that was a question for Bogan. But the fog is crazy thick on that. I always just can't. That's the first thing I do when I fire up the game is I type in the code to cancel the fog. So I don't deal with that.
Yeah, and you're right. That is probably for bow gamery, but no, the fog. If I was answering the question from before regarding, what's that one feature that you were really excited about, it would have been like the weather physics. The fog would have been one of them, but I quickly soured on that one very fast.
So I run this mod called realistic weather, and
Mm-hmm.
dude, I love it because I'll be sitting there just bunching away, and all of a sudden I got 40 centimeters of snow coming at me, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm not ready for this. I'm on the side of a mountain or something.
No, that is a really good mod. I believe it's by Arrow, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah, it's a really good one. Let's see. JC Farm says, BDD, love your live chat stream, and I appreciate it, JC. Thank you so much. Let's see. We got one here from Kiwi Sim Farmer says, thank you. I have learned quite a bit of about the logging process.
Well, I'm glad I could, you know, tell you a little bit of my knowledge. If there's any questions to anyone, if you ever have questions about logging, I'm available on Discord anytime. You hit me a message and I'll do whatever I can to answer you. If you're having troubles in your games and you want me to watch, try to figure it out, help you anyway, tips, tricks, that's what I'm here for. That's what I like to do is help people.
Absolutely. And the Discord link as well as your YouTube channel are both linked in the description below. Let's see. We got one from Dust Bunny. She says, with the tree physics being what they are in FS, which trees should giants use or allowed to be placed in maps for best logging?
Lodgepoles, spruces, sequoias are fun if you're doing a skidder or cable skidder situation. I like the sequoias. That's why I'm liking this map so much, is because he added the sequoias in it, but he undersized them. They're not the huge giant ones; they're the medium sized ones. They're still big, they're still giant, but they're not as big as the ones on what was that one, Silver Ridge or whatever that FS22 map was. The one with the roller coaster.
Oh,
What the hell's the name of that map?
Silver Run.
Silver Run, yeah. Um, but definitely, and the thing that you need with a login map is population. I need to be able to sit there, drive up in and stop with my buncher, and be able to cut 4 or 5 trees without moving, tracking forward or backwards. You need that population. You need that thick density. It's when you're spaced out halfway across the map. It, it just ruins the login aspect of it because you're chasing wood all the time, and it slows you down. Like for me, running the full mechanical setup that I do, and I even do multiplayers with the boys. I'll have device in the loader, I'll have Billy Goat and a skidder, I'll have grub and a forder, or whatever. It's on maps like that, it slows the whole crew down. I need to be able to sit there within my buncher and just lay stack after stack after stack down. I can't. It's what keeps, like, when we're multiplaying, I can put out 10. We could put out anywhere from 5 to 10 loads a night in a stream. When
Wow.
it takes me about an hour to cut. I can cut, drag, process, load, and take it to the mill within an hour, one load.
That's insanely impressive. Like that's like I'm sitting here just thinking about my experiences when I do logging for whether it's my let's plays, role play, whatever the case may be. But I'm sitting there doing them, and I've never done like a multiplayer where I've done like forestry explicitly kind of thing. But just thinking from my experience, I'm sitting there and I'm just taking hours and hours and hours, and that's just to do like one trailer load of logs. And
So
go ahead.
I got a question for you
Uh huh.
right now in front of everyone. When you come and log in with me,
You know what? Whenever you'll have me.
you tell me a day you're free, and we'll put on a show for these guys.
And what's going to happen is you are going to make me look like an absolute fool.
Nope, I'm gonna sit in the truck. I'm gonna sit in the truck and eat pastries while you put out a load of wood.
I tell you what, man, I'll definitely do it.
Well, I'm actually setting up a new multiplayer map right now. I'll make sure you get the link to the mods.
Sounds like a plan to me. Let's
Alrighty.
see. Next one we got is from Lisa. She says or asks, what would your wife, would your, wow. Mm-hmm. Words are hard tonight, y'all. Words are hard. What would you and your wife do for fun? There we go.
Uh, all right. Let's keep this PG rated. Well, luckily I found a very, very sweet woman that loves the same stuff I do. She likes hunting. She likes fishing. She likes going out mudding. She likes all the stuff I do. So a date night for us could be jumping in the truck, going to the ice cream shack, grabbing a hot dog and a cone, and just going for a woods ride, looking at animals, or just riding around, or we go on four-wheeling trips and all kinds of stuff. Uh, but yeah, it's not the everyday girly things with her. I ain't gotta take her to the mall and spend all kinds of money. Like she's happy just jumping in my truck and going and getting an ice cream. So that's what it's about to me.
Gotcha. Lisa, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from Billy Goat Gaming. Ask favorite truck brand.
Western Star. I say that because they're the only truck brand that I've ever seen hold up in the woods. Your Freightliners, we call them freight shakers. They shake themselves apart. Uh, your Internationals, we call them 13-letter shit spreaders because that's all they are. They're just garbage. Um, uh, Western Star holds your Peterbilts. They're overrated. It's your redneck Cadillac is all that is. Parts prices are just out of this world, and they don't hold up. They ain't got a heavy enough. Even their double frames don't hold up to the them woods roads. You think you got a a good setup rig, for wheeling or something? Go right up and down the Golden Road. Make that trip a few times and let me know when you get her back to the homestead how many parts you got to replace. She's a wild ride up through there.
Let's see. Billy Goat, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from, let's see. Oh, comment from Dust Buddy says, Mr. Dave, I remember you clearing forest after forest in the beginning live streams. Yes, I did do a lot of forestry, but I was no good at it. I am certainly nowhere anywhere near the league of Doc here. So yeah, no. See, the thing is though, is during those times when I was doing those, I had the power of editing. so I would be doing that for literal hours on my end, but for everybody else out there watching the content, it was maybe about 5 minutes. Let's see. Billy Goat also asks, FDR is controller friendly now, right?
It is. He just made his stuff all controller friendly, which was great. And I'm kind of another thing he did was he changed all his weights to be friendly with all his other mods, so you could take one of his machines and set it on a in-game truck and low bed and pull it around. I had my prejudices against that. I think he really dropped the ball on that. He should have left that alone because now a good wind will blow the machine over. But if you're talented enough and know what you're doing, you can hold it upright. But for somebody else that's just trying to get into it, if you really want to get into it, I've got FDR's. I did find FDR's old pack where he didn't mess with the weights. Let me know. I'll send you that pack. That's the pack to start out on. You want to be balanced. You want a firm planted machine.
Gotcha. And again, Billy Goat, thank you so much for your question there. And we got one here from Real Unknown Device says, tell Doc my Toyota will take that hill.
Well, first of all, it's a Toyota. It ain't taking nothing but a ticket in the junkyard. Um, but come on up. We'll rattle some parts off her. That's all right.
All right. Well, that looks like the last question I had here from the chat. So it is now time to start wrapping things up and getting into our third and final segment called That's a Silage Wrap. Again, I love doing this show, and right here, right now, this is the reason why. Being able to talk to people like yourself, Doc, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you here tonight. So thank you so much for coming out here.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me. I'm just I love what you do, and when I learned about this, I've been told about, this for a while now, and I've Dust Bunny had talked to me about it for a while there at one point, and I said, I don't know, I'm not that type of guy, da 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 da. And but I said, shit, if Bogan can step up and do it, I got to outman him, so I got to do it now.
I gotcha, I gotcha. And like I said, it was absolutely my pleasure to have you on here tonight. Had an absolute blast with you. Do you want to remind us where we can find you?
Uh, at FAFO Logging on YouTube. Uh, Twitch. He ain't got my Twitch link because I never sent it to him, but it's FAFO Logging on Twitch. I do stream over there every now and again, and my Discord is right there too.
And do you have any future projects or plans that you're working on for your channel?
Uh, I want to get into a lot more multiplayers. Uh, and I'm actually thinking I've talked about it for a while now, but I just need to do it. I'm gonna do community night Mondays, where the farmers and loggers can get together, and the loggers can build the farm ground for the farmers to farm. I'll put up a server, and once, maybe twice a week, we'll get on it, and uh, we'll just go to town. We'll play the game for what it is. We'll have fun. We'll laugh. We'll joke. Pick on Bogan, and that's about it. Other
Oh.
than that, um, been messing around a bit. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm doing these intros, outros. I I've been wanting to get into some real life streaming for real life logging. Problem with that is all my workers, they're at the age where, so for example, this summer I was welding on a cylinder in the shop, and I said, oh, what a perfect time to throw up a member stream. And I was getting it all set up, and Andy walked in. He says, "What are you doing?" I told him, he said, "You ain't putting me on no idiot box." So it's kind of hard to get the old generation into the new groove of things. Um, and when I'm around them a lot, it's especially in the spring, at spring breakup, it's hard. But I think this winter I'm going to do some snow plowing videos. Everybody's been interested in seeing snowstorms in Maine and snow plowing videos, so that's going to be easy to do because I go by myself. So there's going to be some member streams of that for sure. I'll actually throw some up on the lives on the regular YouTube as well, so other people can see. But when I'm swearing and tearing in a stream, that's probably going to be a live stream. That's probably going to be because I got a few properties I take care of that are just hellish, and I probably say things I shouldn't say on to the public YouTube. So if you want to see Doc lose his mind, you'll find it on the members side for sure this winter.
I gotcha there. I gotcha. Just real quick, I had Dust Bunny send me one last thing here. It was from Boganery. Says this show is awesome. BDD is a legend, and says great chat, guys. Boganery, thank you so very much. Greatly appreciate that. Um,
I couldn't have said it better.
uh, like I said, I absolutely love doing this show. Getting to hear the stories, getting to hear a bit more about the creators within Farm Sim. One of the reasons why I do this show, one, like I mentioned, is the stories, but two is to be able to find out all this information that I would, number one, never be able to have the time to do. Being able to talk to all the people I've gotten to talk to up to this point, I just don't have enough time in the day to be able to go out to every single one of the creators, whether they're content creators, their channels, to follow people on Facebook or whatever kind of social medias they may have. I just don't have that amount of time in the day. I've got two kids, I got my wife. It just doesn't exist in my world. So being able to do this show allows me to not only get that, interactability with the individuals I bring on, but the ability to be able to just get to get introduced to such wonderful people. You know, like Doc here, like Bogan. You know, earlier this week, so many other people to stop by on this channel. I just love it, absolutely love it. And this is the time where I set my sights to the chat, asking, "Did you enjoy this here tonight? If you did, let me know who you would like me to try and get onto the show." Like I mentioned, I can't know everybody who is out there. And because of that, I rely on people out there in the audience to let me know who exists out there. There's so many people out there, whether they're modders, map makers, content creators, farmers. Without farmers, we wouldn't have Farming Simulator. And, you know, even other loggers like Doc here tonight. You know, again, that's a new component here in the in the channel. The ability to have farms and to have to have logging and to have all this stuff kind of going on. Why not? Why not? So again, if you know of somebody that you would like to be shown on this channel, let me know who they are. I will do my absolute best to get them onto the show. But again, Doc, I want to thank you so very, very much for coming out here tonight. I had an absolute blast. And again, I hope everybody here enjoyed it. If you did, please show me by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things. The algorithms enjoy you doing the shows, you're engaged with this channel, enjoying the content. And that being said, I hope everybody has a fantastic day. Take care. Doc, hang on for just 1 second until after the outro, and I'll catch you on the other side.
Alrighty. Good night, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
This is Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Let's roll. Out here in the country, where the roads run wide, there's a world behind the pixels that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. He's got questions rolling like a big John Deere, digging deep with modders so their voices we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come